Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sharifa, and my poetry name is New Lily. If you're new, please check out the links located in the description box and the comment section. And in both locations, you'll find an identical set of links. Links that lead to videos that talk about what started my targeting in 2020, as well as links that lead to videos that share information about the targeted individual program, the tactics used, technology used, and information about the program in general. So not only have I documented y'all some of the things that I've encountered while being targeted, but I've also done extensive research over the course of the last 2 years. Because although I've been targeted, excuse me, y'all, I need to blow my nose. Although I've been targeted since 2020, the targeting didn't actually go viral until 2022, and I didn't actually learn that I was a target until 2022. So I have a very unique case, y'all. The targeted individual program is a strange, anomalous thing, and so if you do find yourself in this unfortunate predicament, it's unique in and of itself. But from the research I've done, my targeting is extremely unique. So it's already a unique situation, and then I have a unique case. So it's really odd what's going on here. But I didn't find out that I was targeted until 2 years after the targeting started. And that was when I tried to relocate off of the island where it started. And when I tried to relocate, I went to the mainland, the United States, and the thing followed me. Because it's, you know how that is. It's the program and it follows you where you go. At that time, I was not, to my knowledge, dealing with the technological aspect of it. Yes, they were surveilling me. So I was dealing with the insect drones that I've discussed in prior videos, y'all. And that's a part of the info shared in the comment section in the description box. But to my knowledge, I wasn't dealing with the more high science level of the targeting, the neuromonitoring, the microchipping, etc., the thought projection. I wasn't dealing with that until 2 years in when I tried to relocate. The targeting followed me and I had some reactions to the targeting. That was when basically you can say things or shit, the proverbial shit hit the fan. And so that was when they started using the technology on me. I came back to the island that I tried to relocate off of because, of course, things got really bad for me in the mainland. You know, I started having reactions as the program is designed. You know, it's a very comprehensive program. I keep saying this, y'all. I've shared this info already. As a matter of fact, let me go to a video where you can hear what I'm about to briefly say. So this video at the top of the screen that you see has a thumbnail that says FBI motto, spy on citizens daily, COINTELPRO, and the title Irrefutable Proof That Gang Stalking is Real. In that video, I shared a clip from a fellow target. Targeted Tony is his name. You can subscribe if you'd like because he does share good info on his channel, i.e. this video. This is where I got this video from. But in this little short clip, I just took, like I said, a screen recording of a video he posted where he was sharing quotes and excerpts from high-profile targets that would be considered reputable, right? So these are the whistleblower type targets, right? And he shared several of them in this video. You have a NASA scientist in this video. You have Ted Gunderson, who was a former FBI agent. Several targets, high-profile targets in this one. I don't believe Eric Snowden is in this video, but he is also somebody that was a high-profile target that confirmed the existence of this program. If you do your research, you can look up Martin Luther King. There are videos out there that talk about the fact that he too was a victim of this program. They use it on many people, y'all. They use it on different types of people. So they use it on high profile people, like some of the people I just referenced. And then they also use it on little nobodies like myself. You know, it's like you wonder when it gets to that level where you're somebody that's an everyday nobody, really. You wonder, how the hell did I end up in this? especially when you see the type of resources that they use, the amount of resources that they use and waste on targets. You start thinking like, damn, who am I, the president? Like, why are they doing all of this to little old me? And typically whatever you're being targeted for, you can find an incident or an individual who's done much worse, and that's not happening to them. And so you really start to wonder, what the fuck is this? And that's just really how the thing works. It's really weird. It's almost like a lotto ticket type thing when you get targeted. It's just like you're just unlucky and you got thrown in, because people do stuff all the time, stupid things. They offend people all the time and they don't end up in this predicament. So it's really just one of those things where you just got a bad card, or you got dealt a bad card in life, right? Gotta, I guess, look at whatever, say your prayers, figure out, because it feels like a spiritual attack. And I do believe there's a spiritual element to this thing, and I've heard other targets saying so as well. I've heard a lot of conspiracy theories when it comes to this thing, y'all. And then I've heard actual factual stuff as well. If you check out the links in the description box and comment section, you'll see a video titled "Harvard DARPA Scientist Confirms Mind Reading Technology," or something of that nature. And in that video, you'll hear Robert Duncan, one of the progenitors of this technology, talking about what the agenda behind the use of it is. So no matter what the front reason they're giving you is, subterfuge, telling you it's about threat containment when they're containing anything but threats, the true intent of the program is to propel the use of the technology. And the hope is, from the research I've done and from what I found out, is to use it on everyone and eventually have everybody hooked up to a computer interface. So understand that this is the start of dystopia. I might sound like one of those crazy cuckoo end time fanatics, but typically those people in the movies, what do you see at the end? That they were correct. And when shit hit the fan, you realize that the cuckoo crazy person at the bench was telling the truth and the things they were saying was real. I've provided evidence, though, to back up what I'm saying. That's the kind of person I am. I've never been the kind to just say things and not back up or support what I'm saying. So, check out that video if you have the time, especially if you're targeted. Even if you're not, this technology will have an effect on everybody, not just the targets. Again, the targets are just unfortunate. We're the experimental lab rats that they're using to propel the use of the technology on everyone else. But the agenda is to microchip everyone, have them hooked up to a computer interface, and that will be the end of democracy. That will be the end of freedom of thought. That will be the end of freedom of speech. And pretty soon, eventually it will lead to the end of free will. Because with the technology, they can actually control your body if they want to. Y'all check out those links in the description box in the comment section. I put together a comprehensive set of links that link to videos sharing info about the technology. Over the course of the last 2 years, since I found out that I'm targeted, I've done nothing but research. I just have that type of mind. I like to read and I like to do research. I've always been like that. Much less for something that's directly affecting my life. Of course, I looked into it. And I refuse to be gaslit about the things I found out. If I'm dealing with this heinous situation, of course I'm going to do research. You can't gaslight somebody for doing research when their whole life is being impeded and turned upside down with this weird program that I never knew about. Most people don't know about it. Typically, when you find out about this thing, it's later in life. And you either find out by way of becoming targeted or by seeing someone else being targeted. You are so fortunate if it's the former and not the latter. I'm the target, right? So that was my situation, and that's my seed in life. That's how I found out about this thing. But it's scary, man, the technology and what I found out the true agenda behind it is. Anyway, not meaning to go off on a tangent, I started doing that by accident. It's all relative. These are all things that need to be discussed and things that need to be said. But that's not why I'm making this video. I've talked about this in so many different videos, what I just said. So it's kind of redundant saying it now. But then again, it's kind of like a refresher course too. I like to do that sometimes. Things I've talked about in prior videos, and if it was a while back, like a few months ago or whatever, a year ago, I do like to talk about it and refresh your memory, especially if it's something as pertinent as the agenda behind this whole thing. Anyway, y'all, that's not why I'm making the video. Came on here to actually expound on some of the things I said in my last video. I know that sounds crazy, right? Let me scroll up to the top. I know that sounds crazy. Let's let the thing load up, y'all. Let's let it load up. Here we go with the noise campaign playing, wasting gas and trying to gaslight because I used the word crazy. Again, psychological warfare and trying to sensitize me to the word crazy so that can somehow feel or become my reality, and it never will. I'm still going to be me, right? I'm still going to have the brain that I have. I'm still going to do the research that I have. I'm still going to be able to make these comprehensive videos. I will never go crazy from the things that are being done. So keep hoping and wishing. But anyways, y'all, so as you can see, the last video that I made, the impeding of the targeted individual's life, y'all can see that thing was 5.5 hours long. This literally, I think, the second longest video I have on my channel. It has been damn near a year since I've posted such a long video. The last video I posted that was not even this long, was longer. The last super long-winded video that I posted was my full story, telling how I became targeted. The video where I'm on camera that I told you was a 7-part compilation that I sat down and I put together, right? So it was 7 different parts, and I sat down at 7 different times and I made a clip and told my story, made different clips. I didn't sit there for a whole 11 hours speaking, y'all. I am passionate about this, but no, I didn't do that. And even with this 5-hour video, if you listen to the whole thing, if you had the time to, I see some of you engaged with me. I see some likes and some views. So thank you for those of you that have been keeping up with my videos, and for those of you that give feedback or silent support, I appreciate it. But I know if you heard the whole video, you will have heard me say I didn't sit there for the full 5 hours for this video either. This was made in parts over the course of a whole week. It took me to make this video, right? Because I had to talk about it. It's like this weird thing with this targeting, and it's not just specifically mine, even though I went off on a tangent telling y'all about high profile targets. But what I initially was talking about was the fact that I have a unique targeting, right? Where the thing went viral. So when I found out about it 2 years ago that I was targeted, after trying to relocate off of the island where the targeting started, I went to the mainland, had some reactions. This is how the thing is designed. I realized I went off on a tangent, started telling y'all about the agenda when I went down there to that FBI video and forgot to tell you how the thing is designed. That's what I was really talking about. I was trying to go back to telling you guys where this thing originated from. And it's actually from the Eastern German policing system. So it was a Stasi program that the Eastern German police used to use to contain dissidents, right, in their society. So they had somewhat of an authoritarian, totalitarian society. And that, of course, lines up with dystopia. And this technology supports that type of society. So that's why I keep saying this is the start of dystopia. That's what I mean. One of those type of societies where you have no rights, no freedom of speech, no freedom of thought, eventually no free will. It's the start of dystopia. So anyways, that was the type of policing system that the Stasi German, that was the type of policing system they had set up in Eastern Germany, right? Way back in the day. This was decades ago, right? Early 50s, 40s, around that time. So what happened was over here in the US, when 9/11 happened, what they did was they used fear-mongering. And it's not that I'm anti-government. Y'all have to keep saying this. I just did research. I'm just telling y'all the things that I learned. I'm not going to say things that aren't true. None of this is fallacy. Everything that I'm saying is true. I did my research, right? You have high-profile, reputable people confirming the things that I've said, but I have to be careful because I'm trying to get out of this program. I'm not trying to dig myself in deeper. I'm not trying to be the next Michael Barden, No disrespect. I respect Michael Barden. I'm always pointing him out as a point of reference because I learned so much from him. But at the same time, he's one of those targets that I've known to be in this thing for a long time, like damn near almost 2 decades at this point. And then there are other targets I follow where I saw that they got out of it. And typically the targets I see getting out are the ones that start saying, yep. And they stop doing research and digging. But it's so hard to be that kind of target when you're constantly dealing with heinous treatment and stuff like that. You start wanting to advocate for yourself, and then you start wanting to do more research to figure out why is this still happening. And then it's just like this trick bag where you just keep getting dug deeper into the thing. But anyways, it's almost this thing like you just have to take the abuse and not talk about it if you want to get out. It's like if you talk about it or if you even show any form of resistance, it's like it gets worse for you. It's crazy. Anyway, so the thing derived from East Germany, like I was saying, y'all, and when 9/11 happened, this is fact, I'm not going to spit conspiracy, because there is a conspiracy theory out there that 9/11 was an inside job. I don't know that to be true. So that's not something that's alleged. I'm making sure to say that. That's alleged. I don't know that to be true, but there is a conspiracy theory out there that 9/11 was an inside job in order to enact the Patriot Act and in order to start the use of this program and this technology in efforts to push forth the agenda of using the technology on everyone. This is what I heard, right? That's not confirmed. I do have confirmation that the targeted individual program is being utilized in efforts to push forth the agenda of using the technology on everyone. That's confirmed. The other thing I just said, that's a conspiracy theory, and I haven't, that's not something that I can concretely confirm. That's alleged. But allegedly, right, some people believe that 9/11 was an inside job in order to instill fear into people so that they would agree to the Patriot Act. Because that's a massive invasion of privacy, the Patriot Act. At this point now, because of the Patriot Act and because of the people agreeing collectively to that enactment, the government can now listen to all of your phone calls. And if they hear something they don't like, you can end up on a watch list. They can surveil you without your knowledge due to the Patriot Act. So that was how that got enacted. But anyway, so basically when the Patriot Act got enacted, they hired on a general from that policing system in Germany, and they had that general come over here, and they modeled the targeted individual program, i.e. COINTELPRO, off of that policing system. So it's a totalitarian, authoritarian, dystopian type program. That's what you need to understand. So anyways, that's enough of that though, y'all. Back to what I was saying though. The point of this video, y'all. What happened was, at the beginning, I was trying to tell y'all where the thing derived from, even though I've talked about this in prior videos. And I was scrolling down to that FBI COINTELPRO video, that shares clips from reputable sources to back up what I'm saying, because that's important. People need to see information and research that can validate what you're saying, or it might just sound like subterfuge. But anyways, so that's why I do what I do. That's why I always make sure to provide evidence, especially in my predicament, because when you're targeted, one of the main things that happens is gaslighting and making you feel crazy and making it seem like you're saying irrational, crazy type things. So it's very important that you provide evidence to back up the things you're saying. So that's why I did that. Anyways, so I went off on the tangent when I scrolled down to the video. I forgot what I was talking about. Scrolled back up, as y'all heard, remembered what I was saying. But let me get to the point of the video, y'all. I don't want this to be too long. It's supposed to be part 2 to the last video. And as I was saying, that's the second longest video on my channel. That thing is so long, 5 hours and 31 minutes. I cringed when I finished and I saw how long the thing was. But anyway, so now to be continuing on is just like crazy. This is a part 2. So let me not go off on tangents and talk about all that other stuff, even though it is important and it needs to be talked about. And there needs to be a constant reminder of what the agenda of this thing is, because you have a lot of people that get involved with it. They're just looking at the surface level, like, okay, there's a bitch I don't like. Let me help with the targeting. Let me help propel whatever is going on, and not understanding that there's a deeper level and element to this whole thing. And you're helping propel the use of something that will likely be enacted on you too in the near future. But anyways, so this is part 2, y'all, to the last video, because there was something I was supposed to expound on and I didn't get to it because I've talked about it so much in prior videos, and it's kind of like beating a dead horse. I even said that in the last video, and I'm tired of talking about it. But it's just like I kind of left something hanging in the air the way I worded things as far as the race sensitization goes. And of course, whoever's running the technology ran with that. And now they're starting to send me sensitization about hating white people. It's gnarly to me, the narratives they create, starting to send that type of sensitization. And so I feel like, oh, whoopsie, you might have offended that race again with the last video, and that wasn't the intention. Let me stop though, y'all, because I know how I am. I can go off on tangents, and I know I already did. I know I needed to say the things I said, but I went off on a tangent. So let me just, like I do sometimes, listen back to what I said, and then I'll come back and finish this video. All right, y'all, I'm back. I just wanted to listen to my last clip and make sure that I said everything in a cohesive manner because I'm very tired. Worked the night shift last night, like I told you on the last video, and several of these videos that I've posted. I told you all that the car situation is difficult. I'm targeted. I'm struggling, right? Working to get back on my feet. So at the moment, I don't have a vehicle. I need to blow my nose, y'all. I'm sorry. But also, too, I told you I'm also struggling with catching public transportation. Like the regular bus, that hasn't really been too much of an issue. At least not getting back from the gym. When I'm trying to get to the gym, before what I would do after working the night shift is I would come home, and I talked about this, y'all, in my... Hold on, I'll scroll to the video where I talked about this. I talked about this 2 months ago in my still struggling with transportation video. And then there are some videos from further back when I initially started having issues with the public transportation where I documented what was going on. Let me scroll there. These 3 videos you see that say part 1, part 2, part 3, episode in the gym. So those 3 videos, I discussed what started happening with the public transportation and how they basically, you could say, in a way, kind of shut it down on me. Not completely, but for instance, the taxis would no longer stop for me. So I was getting out there every day, right? And it was working for me better than the arrangement I have now, where I was able to rest for a few hours after working the night shift. And then I would get up, get myself ready. I would go out there to the bus stop and I would catch a taxi down to the gym. I was listening to music on my playlist while doing so. They created a narrative with one of the songs I was listening to. This kind of ties into what I was talking about in the last video about them amping up off and on some of these false narratives at certain times, right? And so at this time, this was around the time when I had first started going to the gym, right? And so there was just a lot of gang stalking activity around that time and amping up of false narratives. And so every song I listened to, if it had something to do with a man and a woman, anything to do, friendship, relationship, whatever the case was, they kept, it could have been a completely different scenario. They still kept comparing the scenario or whatever it was to that cyber stalking, cyberbullying situation. And so basically they created a narrative with one of the songs I was listening to, and they shut down the taxi transportation. They used that as an excuse to stop giving me rides on the taxi. I think it was just something they were planning to do. And so they just used that as an excuse. So I was listening to that song. I went out there to catch the bus one day. You know, I was catching the bus every day and they were stopping. And then this one song played that was about a relationship, which most R&B songs are. I believe it was a Destiny Child song. I was saying, say my name, say my name. You know how many millennials have that song on their playlist? That's like an iconic 90s nostalgia R&B type song. Most millennials and people my age listen to Destiny's Child, right? So anyways, I had that on the playlist. It was just, to me, another song. But they created a narrative from that song and tried to paint it like that was, you know, referencing the cyber stalking, cyberbullying situation when there's no relativity. There was never a romantic element to his and I. Our relation is what I'll call it. I wouldn't even say relationship. Our friendship / relation that happened years ago. But anyways, they're just doing it on purpose, man. Spitefully creating these false narratives to malign me because they don't like me as a person. And so I feel like, really, I think the intent was to not give me a ride anyways. I think that they were just looking for an excuse to do it, to be quite honest with you. A lot of people are holding grudges against me for some of the reactions that I had to the targeting. And then me coming back to Island and defending myself and speaking and telling my story, that angered them more. And so that's really what I believe it truly was. I think they already didn't want to stop. And so like they just used anything to create a narrative and stop giving me a ride with the taxi. So basically that day that song was playing and they started doing ref campaign. You know, the ambulances started driving up and down, similar to something that happened at the gym today. I'm going to talk about that too briefly in the video in a minute. But that happened. And then they even had a gang stalker stop to talk to me. The same guy that had stopped outside of the gym, I didn't know him from anywhere, pulled up on me one day when I was walking to the gym. I talked about him in those videos, so I don't want to go into details about that thing. But the point is, they created a narrative from that song, and then next thing you know, I just realized the next day the taxis weren't stopping anymore. So I realized it was something they had planned to do. So I, you know me, quick thinking, I refuse to give up. I keep finding different ways to survive what's happening to me. I'm like, okay, I'm still going to get to the gym. I'm still going to do my thing. I'm going to figure out a way to get there until I can get a car. And so I looked into the public bus, which is a little bit different to taxi. Like, they have to stop. It's not a situation where they can decide to not stop for you. They have to stop. And so that's what I looked into. And initially that was shaky. You know, it wasn't like a thing with the taxis where they were stopping at first and then it just turned into this thing where they created a narrative so they wouldn't have to stop for me anymore. With the public bus from the very beginning, when I was trying to catch bus to the gym, it was a little bit shaky. It wasn't a sure ride. You know, it would be this thing where I would follow the schedule. I would go to the location where you catch the bus. And this is how I know my targeting is to an extremely high level, because I follow a lot of targets, y'all, on the internet. And the main form of transportation for most targets is the public bus. I've even seen targets recording gang stalking activity on the bus. You know, and I've never seen a target talking about the actual public bus, you know, not showing up. Like that's how I knew my targeting was at a different level, man. I'm telling you, it's at a real high level. Anyway, so what was going on was whenever I would go out there to catch the bus, I would notice the bus wouldn't show up at the time that it said it was going to show up, which is understandable. That can happen sometimes. I understand it's a bus and, you know, there are unpredictable situations that pop up. But it was like this consistent thing where if I would show up for this one time, the bus either wouldn't show up for like hours later, or they would just straight up tell me the bus wasn't running, like it shut down, which doesn't make sense because I know that they know that there are many people that rely on public transportation and they have many buses. So if one bus shuts down, they have to bring out another bus because there are people that rely on the bus for work. So there's a bunch of people that wouldn't be getting home or getting to work if they were to really just say, oh, the bus isn't working, no ride today. Like they, you know, I knew that that wasn't a realistic response. It would be, okay, you have to wait till this next bus comes. But some days they were actually just completely telling me, oh, the bus isn't running today, the bus shut down. And it was just like a, oh, well type of thing. And there was nothing I could do about it. And so I just, you know, it was obvious that it was like likely, you know, the same thing that was happening with the taxis. But that wasn't a consistent thing. That would happen some days. What was really more so happening when I would try to catch bus down to the gym was it coming late. So it would be this thing where I'd have to sit for hours waiting for the bus. So I would go at the time on the schedule and it wouldn't come until hours later. And then I would even have, you know, gang stalking activity. Like I would have this random person come up to me and, you know, do some theater. You know, they'll talk to somebody behind me like, hey, what's going on with the bus? You know, and it's not good acting. No disrespect to these people, but it wasn't good acting. I could tell it was like theater. You know, and they're having like this conversation that sounds disingenuous, talking about basically why the bus is not coming right now. And then they would come and randomly talk to me and say, hey, are you waiting for the bus? I'm like, yeah, you know, and they'll be like, well, it's not coming anytime soon, you know, it might not be here until this and that time, you know, hours later. And so it'd take me hours to get to the gym. It turned into like this all day trek just to get to the gym to work out for an hour or two. And then I would have to catch the bus back up. And that wasn't a problem because there is a main bus station across from the gym. So that's fortunate for me. So they don't do that with that schedule. Like the bus is going to show up on time there because of that being the main station. And a lot of people catch bus from there. There wasn't really what seemed like gang stalking activity with that ride. It was the getting to the gym that was the issue. And so I documented it. And of course, I got more backlash for making the video. I was just talking about genuinely what was happening to me. And I got backlash for it. And even now I'm saying, you know, I'm not accusing them of, because it wasn't a thing like the taxi was just completely no ride. It was just this thing where it was really difficult to get the ride. So I'm not going to accuse them and say that, you know, they were doing this as a gang stalking tactic, although that was likely what was going on. I'm not going to accuse them. I did actually get a ride with them. I've even had conversations with some of the bus drivers and they're cool people. It's really just, I'm sure some of them have issues with me. I can tell. Some of them do seem like, you know, they're a part of this thing where they have feelings towards me. I can tell I'm an intuitive person. And then some of them seem uninvolved. Like they're cool people. It just really just depends. And even if you do have feelings towards me, that doesn't really necessarily mean you're not a cool person. You just have whatever your your perception of me is, and that's what it is. So even whether they had feelings towards me or not, they just taken orders. If they're told, by whoever runs the program, which is, the higher, the government runs the program. If they're given a directive to not give me a ride or to do a gang stalking tactic, they're going to do it. So it's not no tiff with them. I don't have a beef with them. I'm just documenting what really took place and what led to the gym schedule that I'm on now, where I have a consistent sure ride to the gym. So it turned into this thing where to get the ride and make sure I had a ride to the gym, and it wasn't like this all day thing just to get to the gym, started getting up super early, not getting up. I don't know what I'm saying. I would get off of my night shift, get ready, not get any rest, and ride to the gym with this person in my close circle that's a teacher. I used to teach with her. And so on her way to work, my gym is en route. And so she drops me off. Excuse me, y'all. So I went off on a tangent just to tell y'all I'm tired. So with this new gym schedule, it's working for me. My body at this point now is acclimated to, doing the night shift and then going straight and going ham in the gym and then coming home and resting. I'm acclimated now to that. But I'm tired. It's at the end of that gym workout now. And actually, it's hours later. It's 1-something, as you all can see, and I still haven't rested. Just been up listening to stuff, watching videos, and going back and forth with myself and if I wanted to make this part 2 or not, because it's just talking about a topic I've talked about like so many times and it's exhausting at this point, but I don't like the narrative I'm starting to see being spun. Like the shadow networkers instantly are sending stupidness and of course, as usual, misconstruing what I said in my last video. So that's why I'm making this video, to expound on what I said in the last one as it pertains to the race sensitization, because I did say in the last video that I was gonna get back to that topic. I started talking about it and I said I was going to go into details about it, and I didn't bother to do it. And I see now leaving things hanging doesn't work. They ran with it and tried to create a narrative. Y'all, I'm so sorry to end the clip again. I need to go get something to drink. It's hot and I'm sleepy, y'all. So I'll be back. So anyways, y'all, finishing off with the video, I listened and everything sounds good. They now just sent with the shadow networking an ad on how to change. Like, it's not about changing. They keep sending me that sensitization too. I don't need to change. I don't have an issue with Caucasian people, or I don't know what's a less offensive term to use. Should I say the technical term Caucasian people? Should I say white people? At this point, since I've said so many offensive things, I don't even know what to say. But I don't have an issue with white people, and I don't have an issue with people of other races. I shared an offensive ideology out of anger in my car. I think that's understandable. It's not justifiable, but I think it's understandable that somebody in rage said things they didn't mean. I don't understand why that's not being understood. I don't see why there's no, I'm not expecting sympathy, compassion, or even empathy, but understanding. I've told my story. I know these people can comprehend what I'm saying. And when I say these people, everyone can comprehend what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sound condescending, but I was dealing with an extremely intense, weird situation. I was dealing with thousands, probably millions, of people stalking me when I had never been in trouble before. And all of this created because I sent an innocent text to people that I trusted, the people in my close circle. It blew up. I tried to leave not thinking it would follow me because I did not commit a crime. I ended up in Indiana. The targeting turned racial. I talked about how that happened in several videos, y'all. I'm not about to repeat that in this video. I'm really not. The targeting turned racial. So I did have a racial element to my targeting, and that added to the rage that I was already feeling. I was already angry. I was angry not just specifically at that element of the targeting, just angry in general that this was happening to me, and it felt like it wasn't fair because I sent a text. And so then I started receiving heinous treatment, and the targeting turned racial, and that's what led to the effect, because it was cause and effect. The cause was what took place in Indiana. The effect was my reaction in Florida. It's not a I'm blaming you type thing and you're the reason I did this. Like, I take accountability. I said horrible things and I shouldn't have shared that info. I've said that a million times and I've apologized. But I'm just explaining what my mindset was and what the cause was to my effect. Anyway, so I don't need to change. I never had an issue with other races. I said this a million times. I even dated, like I said, a Caucasian Colombian right before I came home, right before my targeting started in 2020. He lived with me in the Airbnbs. when the whole situation that I talked about in my full story was taking place. Really what you can say the catalyst was to me sending the text message, what led to me sending the text in the first place. Anyway, so I don't need to change. You know, I don't have a history of saying offensive things. Yes? Hold on. I don't have a history of saying offensive things, especially racially charged offensive things. Y'all, let me stop the video yet again. I have to open the door for my brother, so I'll be back. And I might end up just taking a nap because I need to sleep. So I might sleep and then come and finish this video. I'll see how I feel when I get back in here. All right, y'all, let me hurry up and finish up this video. They're sending one set of craziness with the shadow networking, y'all. Now they sent a video talking about me wanting to be a white woman. Like, I don't know where the common sense begins and the craziness ends. I don't understand, but I can roll with that narrative more than the other thing they sent earlier about hating. Like, I can roll with the I want to be white narrative than I hate white people narrative. I can roll with that. I really can. And I don't know what's making them say that either. I don't know if it's the way that I speak. I don't know what's creating it. I don't know if it's because I shared the offensive stuff in my vehicle, which again was out of anger, and it was a reaction to what happened to me in Indiana. I don't have a history of sharing that stuff. But whatever it is, I can roll with that false narrative a little bit more than the other one. Anyways, in a moment of transparency, though, I can say this. And I try to be careful too with the transparency moments because they take those things and they use it to rub it in my face and create stuff, and also to kind of shoot me with bullets, right? So I'll be careful with what I'm saying, but I believe I probably said this in my full story anyway. There was a level of insecurity when I went to private school back in the day, and not necessarily just pertaining to white women. I would say just in general, feeling like maybe I wasn't pretty enough, you know, when I was younger, because, you know, if you're going to a school and it's a diverse setting and you're seeing different aesthetics, you might feel like your aesthetic is lacking. That can happen, especially as a young woman. And so that was an insecurity when I was younger, like maybe my hair wasn't long enough or straight enough. You know, I didn't really experience long hair or hair growth until later in life when I learned how to take care of my natural hair. And so actually now it really sucks that I cut my hair last year and it's growing back and they keep trying to throw subs at me about it, when they actually saw how long my hair was before I cut it, because they were doing noise campaign last year when I was chopping the shit off. You know, and I've never had a hesitancy when it comes to cutting my hair, but now I'm regretting it because it's like I neglected my hair this year. You know, I wasn't focused on it. And so now it's kind of lacking and I'm working to grow it back, and they keep throwing subs about that. But that was an insecurity of mine when I was younger, and I did say that in my full story. It stemmed from private school. You know, because a lot of my best friends were white, and not just white, different ethnicities. I went to a diverse private school, right? So a lot of my friends were of different ethnicities, and I didn't know how to take care of my hair back then. You know, I had the little rough hair, and I didn't know how to take care of it. And so that aesthetic did look more appealing to me, you know, because it felt like they could just wash their hair, you know, and go about their day. And for me, it's like you raking the comb through that thing. And, you know, it takes love when you have natural hair. You have to nourish that thing. You have to water it. You have to put moisturizer in it. And I didn't know about that back then. So my hair was short and broken, and there was that insecurity there. And then it was further, I guess you could say it worsened when I went to public school, because then I ended up liking that guy I told you guys about in elementary school, that guy that was my best friend in high school. And he, you know, he was the only guy I actually ever talked to that had that mindset. And I'm not coming for him. Everybody has a preference, and I'm never going to get mad at someone over their preference. That's ludicrous. That's why I kind of found it crazy when they were throwing subs at me for saying I don't like to date shorter men. And I felt like I had to, you know, validate and explain away why I feel that way, when all I had to do was say it's a preference and that should be acceptable enough. But I felt like I had to explain, well, oh, it's because I'm tall and, you know, I'm a strong female, and, you know, I feel like if I date a man that's shorter than me, then I won't feel feminine enough in the relationship. I felt like I had to say all of that because they started throwing subs at me simply for saying that I have a preference for taller men. But it's understandable if someone says they have a preference for a different aesthetic. You know, it's like this kind of weird thing with the targeting. I notice they do these contradictory things all the time. Like, they throw subs at me about interracial dating as if I would have an issue with that, which I don't. If a man has a certain preference, or female, that's their right. But then you're coming at me and attacking me for having my own preference. Anyway, most of the guys I've dated, though, in the past didn't have a specific preference. It was really just if you had a good personality and they found you attractive. It really didn't matter what your aesthetic was. But this guy in high school, he was literally the only guy I had ever, I didn't even date him. We were just best friends. I never dated him, but I did fall for him in high school. He was the only guy that ever instilled that insecurity in me, where the conversations we had, he made it very clear that he had a preference for a certain aesthetic. And my aesthetic likely wasn't it. You know, it was this weird thing with him because it seemed like he liked me. It was this weird thing where he was, you know, throwing hints like he liked me, but then at the same time he's saying certain stuff. I'm like, damn, do you? You know, it's just like, it was so confusing, but it also added to the insecurity that I had already had in me from private school. But I never had an issue with people of different ethnicities because of that insecurity. It never created a hate for people of different ethnicities. You know, I grew up in a very understanding household and in a very understanding school background. So that wasn't a thing. It was more so just insecurity within myself that later dwindled away when I got older and I learned how to take care of myself and love myself. But I never wanted to be a white woman. You know, they have a lot of things that are good about them, but I'm happy with who I am. That's all I'm saying. But I don't mind them throwing that stimuli. I can accept that a little bit more than the other thing they were throwing. Anyway, so I forgot what I was going to say now, y'all. I am so tired. Like, it was just like Delulu land. Like, this could be a very tangent-based video if I'm not careful. And I don't want this to be super long. The last video was way too long. I'm supposed to be talking about the race sensitization. Oh, God. I've talked about this so many times and I'm tired, too. Anyways, y'all, I was talking about basically my background and this Hebrew thing. I'm not here to preach and talk about the belief system in and of itself. You know, like I could end up opening cans of worms again that I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to talk about what led to me sharing what I shared in my vehicle and where that understanding came from in the first place. Here we go with the noise campaign in the background up my ass. They didn't even let me finish saying what I was saying. Y'all, I'm tired. I keep saying that. I'm deciding now that I'm hearing the noise campaign playing. I'm not ready to go to war with noise campaign, being exhausted and trying to do this video. I'm going to watch a movie and try to get some sleep, and then I'm going to come back and finish this video. So I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Peace out. What am I saying? I'm so tired, y'all. I'm acting like I'm ending the video. I'll be back in the next clip, y'all. And that next clip will be the final clip to this video. All right, so I'll be back. All right, y'all. I'm finally back. As you all can see at the top of the screen, it's 5:28. So, and I still haven't slept yet. Sorry for the hesitation. There's noise campaign going on in the background, y'all. I still haven't slept. It's just one of those things where you ever been so exhausted and tired that it's actually causing insomnia? That happens to me sometimes. If I wait too long to sleep after working the night shift and then going directly in the morning and doing like an intense workout in the gym, if I don't come home and crash out, this weird thing will happen where it's like my body feels so tired that I can't sleep. It's this weird thing that happens to me sometimes. It doesn't happen often, but it happens sometimes, and it usually leads to me feeling really crappy. Like I feel like right now, but I just could not get to sleep. So I was just like, well, let me finish the video since I'm up and it's getting later. And then also too, I need to eat. You know, you guys know I'm eating in a surplus. If you've watched my recent videos, I'm bodybuilding. Y'all know I work out. So I'm eating in a surplus and I have so much food that I still need to eat. And the intention was to sleep, then wake up and start eating. But it's like I'm still up and it's getting later and I have work tonight. So I'm going to try to eat some of the stuff on the list and then see if maybe that will help me get to sleep. Because at this point now, my stomach is griping and that might be the issue. Anyway, so let me hurry up and get to the point of the video, y'all. I don't want this to be too long. So in the last video, if you heard the full video, you all have heard me say towards the end of the whole 5.5 hour saga, I was talking about an incident that occurred last Thursday where I asked someone in my close circle, I was in the car riding with her, and I asked her if she would stop at the store. Just so I could get some t-shirts because, you know, as y'all know, I'm broke right now. I'm targeted, obviously. And so I'm struggling. I'm making money. You know, it's not like I can't prioritize and take some of that money and put it to the side and buy clothes, but there's no incentive either. It's like, you know, I'm doing security at night. Excuse me, I need to blow my nose. Hold on a second, y'all. Anyway, y'all, like I was saying, you know, I'm doing security at night. I'm targeted. It's not like, I have an active social life at the moment. So there's no incentive to put money aside and really invest in clothes. I used to have a whole, full wardrobe. I had wardrobe. I had heels. I had nice outfits. My nails used to always be done. I used to wear lipstick, etc. It's like I don't care for those things at the moment in my life. I'm not saying I'm doing away with those things completely, but at the moment it's like as long as I look decent, that's all I care about at this point. There's no reason to get dressed up with what's going on. So it's just kind of this thing, and even with the gym clothes, it reflects there too. Like I'm not really investing in anything too fancy schmancy. I'm just trying to wear stuff that's comfortable for me that I can work out in. So I'm not really spending too much money, but I do want to get some t-shirts so that I can at least have a selection of shirts to pick from, because at this point, my wardrobe is so scant. It's like I'm recycling like the same 5 shirts and just like washing them and using them. And you know how t-shirts are, tank tops, excuse me. They get worn out and stretched out, and it's not like I'm going to the gym, for style. I'm really going and working hard in that gym, doing a lot of stuff. I'm squatting real hard and squatting heavy and doing a bunch of squats and a bunch of workouts and getting all sweaty and stuff. And so I really need to invest in some shirts. I've been saying that. And it's just like this lazy thing where I'm like, I know I need to stop at the store and get the t-shirts, and not t-shirts, tank tops. And I kept putting it off. So I'm in the car with this person in my close circle, and we had just come from the office where I had went to pick up my shirt. And I told y'all in the last video how that was kind of like an awkward interaction that I was beating myself up about. And I know that with all of these interactions that I have on a day-to-day basis, everyone's watching. It's like a live reality TV show that I didn't sign up for. And so when I have like these embarrassing moments where something embarrassing happens, I just know like everyone's watching, and there are so many people that are watching that don't like me, so that's what makes it even more embarrassing. It's not like to say it's just like a regular reality TV show where people are watching you and judging anyway, because that's naturally what happens. That's the natural human instinct. You watch somebody, and if you're watching their day-to-day life, you're going to judge them. That's a natural human instinct. And so if you're someone that's targeted and there's already this preconceived notion of who you are and you've been vilified, then it's worse. The judgment is more intense and everything feels like you're on eggshells, and it's just like, you have an awkward moment. You'll beat yourself up about it more than you typically would have if you weren't targeted. So it was just something like that going on in the car. I was just like, oh, feeling like, I know I need to get these tank tops, and that was my intention. I had even texted myself, but after the awkward interaction, I was kind of like, do I still want to come out at the store? Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. But I decided to ask. I asked the person in my close circle. I said, can you just stop right there? It was on the way home. It was a shopping center that's right next to, hopping and skipping away, right next to the neighborhood that we live in. So she pulled off of the road that we were on and turned onto the road that would turn into the shopping center. And I told her the store I wanted to go to. And so as she's turning off and we're turning in to go to this store, listen to noise campaign, y'all. I don't know if that's noise campaign, but 2 cars driving by simultaneously. Like, this is not a lit neighborhood like that. Anyways, so she's turning to go into this, they'd be doing some like orchestrated stuff sometimes. Let me not bear false witness, so it might have been a coincidence. But I experienced so many strange things, and I know if you're targeted, you can relate, that even if I do, mistake something as being, gang stalking and it's not, I wouldn't gaslight myself about it, because I'm so sensitized right now and I'm dealing with PTSD too, that if I do feel like something is gang stalking and it's not, I don't fault myself for it. But I do try not to bear false witness and accuse people of things. This is a neighborhood. People do live here. Anyway, it's just a coincidence. Right as I'm talking, they know what I'm about to say next, and then these cars, both of them driving by on separate roads, Anyway, so, as she turns off and we're heading into the shopping center area, I'm noticing a herd of people going into the store that I just told her I want to go into. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, it was literally like a big, huge group of people going in. I was just like, is this going to be gang stalking? Because I know they just saw the awkward interaction that just took place, right? And they saw me beating myself up about it in the car, because I was even, kind of telling the person in my close circle, like, stop asking me questions, please. I'm trying to focus on what just happened, And so then now I see this after I told her the story. Remember, everything, again, is being watched 24/7 by everyone. So anybody can stalk me at any given time at their leisure. It's like normalized stalking activity is what's going on with this targeting. Like, stalking is normalized with the targeting and strange behavior. Anyway, so it's just like we're pulling in there and I'm seeing like a herd of people going into the store. So I was like, oh, hell no. I didn't feel like it. I was already kind of questioning whether or not I wanted to stop after the awkward moment. And then I saw that and I was just like, I'll get the tank tops on a different day. So I said that to the person in my close circle and she starts flipping out on me. She's like, I already turned off the road. You are going in that store. I'm not dealing with this bullshit. And from the time she used the word bullshit, I know that she's like purposely, I don't want to create stuff, and get into problems. Because like I said, these videos is what can lead to me being in a worse situation than I already am in, even if what I'm saying really happened. But she literally said the word bullshit. And if you've been following my story, like the earlier videos, you'll have heard me talk about where the word bullshit came from and why in my specific targeting, that's a word used to sensitize me. So anytime that's being used, I know it's some sort of, going along with the program type of thing. So I'm just feeling like, okay, so she's like going to force me to go in there and she knows that likely I saw what I saw. But it's just like, I wasn't having it. I'm like, I'm not going in there. I don't want to go in there. No, thank you. And so she's yelling at me. I'm like, you are going in there. You already turned off the road. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Like, we're near the house. You just turned in here. Okay, let's just drive through and go home. And she was just not having it. She was really trying to get me to come out the car and I wasn't doing it. And so she got out and snatched her purse and went into the store and I sat right there in the car. And as I'm sitting there, I started looking at videos. I started looking at African cities. And for some reason, whenever I start doing that, it enrages the gang stalkers. Like, they start revving by and doing crazy things. And I think it's because they're associating my want to go over to Africa with me being some sort of prejudiced person. And I explained in the last video why I have the urge to go over there and why I'm seeking, you could almost say seeking asylum. That's an actual thing, by the way, y'all. Sometimes foreigners from other countries will seek asylum in other countries because they're facing injustice in their country. But I'm not like quote unquote technically seeking asylum, but I am looking for refuge and trying to get my life back. And so doing research, excuse me, hold on, y'all. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. From doing research, like I mentioned in the last video, sorry, I lost my focus. From doing research, like I mentioned in the last video, I was looking for places or countries on Earth that have the lowest internet penetration. Because remember, this is a high science technological program. And a lot of the gang stalking is propelled via the technology. They're using the technology to do it. So they're using their phone and they're using cell towers, etc. There is an element of satellite manipulation as well. So they can track you with these RFID chips, from what I understand, via satellite as well. But it won't be anywhere near as comprehensive as it is here in the mainland, where you have the cell towers and you have the cell phones and the technology that can help propel the targeting. So that's what I was looking at. I was looking at countries that I could go to that have low internet penetration, right? And I saw this other target do that. He went over to Papua New Guinea, that it's expensive to live over there. In Africa, it's like there are so many countries that are affordable. And there are more areas that have low internet saturation or penetration and larger areas. So that's the main reason why I'm looking at Africa. But then the second reason, I was honest in the last video, it is a race thing, but not what they're likely thinking. It's more so, even though I know that over there is diverse, and just like everywhere else in the world, there will be a medley of different races. Shh! Look at them making the noises with their foolishness. I'm not stupid, I understand that. If you look at the demographics of Africa, you'll see that there are less people that I will have offended over there is what I'm looking at. I'm just keeping it real with you. I'm as real as possible. It's not I just want to be around black people type of thing. It's not that. Because if we're going by the Hebrew Bible, right, or whatever they think the narrative is, and they think I'm pushing, this offensive, excuse me, propaganda, and that's the reason I'm trying to get over there. According to the Hebrew understanding, majority of let me not say stuff to get myself in problems. It's not what they think. That's all I'm going to say. I keep trying to be transparent about stuff, and then I end up getting myself in problems. So I'm not going to say too much. I'm not even going to continue with what I was about to say. But nonetheless, it is a race thing too about the demographics. That's the second reason, not the first, the second reason, but it's more so just I felt like I had more of a chance of reviving over there because there would be less people that I offended likely over there. Not even just necessarily the race thing, the nationality thing too. I've offended, people of different islands, well, one specific island over here with some of the inflammatory comments I made in the past, years ago, decades ago, but my stupid ass being transparent, I talked about it in my full story. So there's that. But then there's also, like I said, the race thing. And so the demographics over there, the nationality over there. Listen to the rooster drone, y'all. They're trying to shut me up. It's so irritating. Now they stop us. They always do that as soon as I stop talking. But I know y'all heard the big loud, like it was kind of drowning out my voice. Anyway, so that's also partially, I said this in the last video anyways. So they knew that's also why I wanted to go over that. I was transparent about that. It's also the fact that with the demographics, although it is diverse over there, I feel like I not just feel, factually, there are less people over there that I said offensive things about or offended. And so that's why I was like, okay, there might be more of an opportunity over there as well. First of all, I could blend in and possibly escape the tracking, number one. But then number two, even if somehow the thing did follow me, again, I felt like there was more of an opportunity to revive over there because there will have been less people that I offended over there. Anyway, the way they're working overtime to try to knock me down, who knows what extent they would go to. I just can't even believe this thing is going so far over a text message. It's crazy, ludicrous to me. Crazy. Anyway, so they just get enraged anytime I look up Africa, and I hadn't posted that last video where I talked about the reason I was looking into Africa. I hadn't posted that last video yet. I was just doing it, looking into Africa like what I do ever so often. And another thing too is they have cheap homes in Africa. Really nice, huge, cheap homes and plots of land in Africa. And a lot of people are catching on, not just specifically black people. There are a lot of different ethnicities moving over there because they're realizing that the land and the houses are cheap over there, and they have some nice quality houses over there. In the past, this is something that my sisters and I were looking at before I was targeted, just because of the cheap element of things, being able to purchase a nice huge house and a big plot of land, rich soil and everything for a cheap amount of for a cheap price, so that's also an incentive, especially when I don't have much and I'm targeted. So that's why I look at Africa. Prior to my targeting, I wanted to visit the whole world. I believe it or not, I'm not just saying this. I used to look at videos. I still have it on a playlist right now. I could go into my playlist and find videos of Switzerland. I was looking at Switzerland prior to my targeting. Not to live there, but I wanted to visit there. It's like one of the most beautiful places in the world. And so there's so many different places I wanted to visit before my targeting. But right now, the goal is just start over, get to someplace safe, and get out of this crazy shit. And so Africa is like tunnel vision in my head. And so sometimes when I want to just, when I feel like they're doing the gang stalking stuff or something weird happened and I'm feeling like ugh about it, I just start to fantasize about Africa to feel hopeful. And so I just pull up the videos and I start looking at stuff in like the houses and stuff like that. And so that's what I was doing. And it started to enrage them while I'm sitting in this car waiting for the person in my close circle to come back. You're revving by and, start revving by in the room doing the craziness. Every time I put up, it never fails, the videos of Africa, they start doing that. And so my thing is, I'm like confused. It's like, you have such a big issue with me. You should be happy that I'm trying to relocate. Why would you be revving up and getting upset for? I don't understand that. Anyway, so, excuse me. As I was looking at these videos and they're revving up and acting crazy, I started smelling cigarette smoke. And so I looked up, and sitting outside of the restaurant, I saw that this, what looked like a homeless man. If he wasn't homeless, he looked homely, but I think he was homeless. They do hire homeless people to gang stalk me, and not just specifically in my targeting. I've heard other targets say this too. They offer homeless people like gift cards or food or money to do the gang stalking. So oftentimes they will hire homeless people. But then on top of things, specifically with my targeting, because of what I talked about in my full story, y'all, and those other videos where I told my story, what happened in 2022, what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, when I tried to relocate off island and I didn't know I was targeted and the thing followed me, one of the reactions I had was a reaction on the Greyhound bus. You should be familiar with this if you've heard my story. And it involved a homeless man, and they misconstrued the whole thing and created this narrative that I have a problem with homeless people or I mistreat homeless people, which couldn't be further from the truth. But so specifically with my targeting, they like to utilize homeless people, but then in general, they do that anyways with the targeted individual program. So anyway, I looked up, I could tell he was a gang stalker. It was the way he was smoking. He saw me right away when I looked up at him. And I also feel like he looked familiar too. I feel like I saw him before. I have such good memory. I'm like an elephant. It really sucks in this targeting. But his face looked familiar. I'm almost certain I saw him one of those nights when I was actually working security at the shopping center. Anyway, so instantly I thought gang stalker, and I know why they're putting him there. It's the race sensitization because of what I shared in my car in Florida. And so that word that I was using that pertains to that ideology I was sharing in my car started to pop in my head, and I really tried to stop it, and typically I can stop it. As much as it's a struggle sometimes when I see that sensitization, I can typically stop it. Like the E might pop in, but like the rest of it won't. I can stop it. But I couldn't stop it this day. Like the whole thing popped in my head, and I went, trying. It's called a brain tick. That's what I call it. That's not like targeted individual jargon or specific terminology to the program. That's my own word that I made for what happens to my brain, and I'm sure other targets' brains when the neuromonitoring is happening and you're experiencing PTSD, sensitization, programming, and trauma. Things start popping in your head and you feel like you don't have control over it. And then there's the psychological element of it where that everyone around you is hearing your thoughts. You're being judged. Likely a lot of them have an issue with you. And so things will pop in your head. Sometimes things you're fearful of, like something you're fearful will pop in, might pop in. It's this weird thing and I can't really explain it. And it's not even really something that someone could understand unless they experienced it. I keep saying that. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. And he's not the only one. There's like other people too, different offensive things sometimes pop in my head. I'm like, fuck, and I can't control it. It just happens. It's a weird thing. I can't really explain it. It's psychological. But then there's also the element of manipulation. With the technology, I've shown y'all this already. In the last video, I was even showing y'all a video that is one of the links that's included in the description box and comment section. One of the informational videos that y'all should check out, titled Evidence of Mind Control Technology. And in that video, as well as several other videos I have on my channel, you'll see information about this technology and evidence to show that the technology exists and what it's capable of doing. And there are even patents for the technology. I have a video linked as well with the patent. But with the technology, if they want, they can push thoughts into your head. I can't 100 concretely prove it, but I'm almost certain I've experienced it before. I'm definitely, I want to say 100% sure I've experienced it. But again, I can't concretely prove it. So I'm just, for the sake of bearing false witness, going to say I suspect that they've pushed stuff in my head before. But being honest and keeping it real, I think 30% of the time it's thought manipulation, like them messing with you and pushing stuff to humiliate you. And I think 70% of the time it's just psychological. It's an intense, weird thing when your thoughts are being projected again. And there's stuff and stimuli in your head all day long via gang stalking, via shadow networking software technology, where they're sending you things to sensitize you via the technology. It's programming. It's mind control, MK Ultra programming is what it is. And it's similar to, like I said, watching a movie and they put the ad on about the Coke. And then a few minutes later, Coke pops in your head and you don't even recall it. You just saw an ad about Coke. It's the same thing, but way more invasive with the targeting, where they're pounding stuff in your head 24/7. And then you see the sensitization in person and then shit starts popping in your head. Of course that's going to happen. They know that's going to happen. And then they'll like make you feel humiliated or gaslight you about it. And so I don't really let it bother me anymore. It's just something that happens and I've already knocked it down in these videos. So it's helped a lot. Anyway, so when I saw him, the thing popped in my head and I felt so bad about it and it started revving up. I'm like, God, well, y'all know I'm sensitized. I know he's a gang stalker, and then even smoking the cigarette and everything. And so that moment happened, and I forgot to get back to this part in the story when that thing happened. Right before the person that was driving in the car with me that went in the store came out the store, they had this other gang stalker come by, and this time it was a black guy, and this was similar to some of the things that used to happen in Indiana. And he's wearing red shoes and a white shirt and a red hat. And remember, I told you they use color. I know you know this. They use color coordination to sensitize targets, whatever specific to your targeting. So with me, it's red and white. With me, it's plaid shirts. And with me, it's army fatigue. That's what they use on me to sensitize me. Oh, and sometimes black and white. But that's barely, they barely do that. It's mainly like the red and white, the army fatigue, and the plaid. Mainly the plaid and the army. Actually, they haven't been, it's this weird thing that happened. And I know when it happened too. It was like a couple months ago when I made this video talking about how they use army fatigue and plaid was all the rage. All the stores had the plaid, and the stores down here are just capitalizing off of the targeting because so many people want to get involved in this new thing on Island, this targeting thing, and they all want to get dressed up for the event, right, and be a part of this stupidness. And so the stores, I don't even blame them, actually. A smart retailer would do that. The stores are actually now stocking up like plaid shirts and army fatigue. I'm seeing it everywhere, just so people can purchase and take pictures and post it and be a part of this stupid thing. Because it's this monumental thing. I made history here on Island in the worst way possible, but I made history here on Island. And so now it's this thing where they all want to, wear the thing, and not everyone's involved, but a lot of them are. And they want to like be in things and wear the design and put the picture on, like it's stupidness, man. It's real stupidness. I cannot believe the level of, it's crazy, man, y'all. I'm still shocked about the whole thing. Anyway, so before it was more so plaid than army. Sometimes you see the army, but they were mainly doing the plaid thing like crazy. A few months ago, I made a video where I was talking about the different things that they use to sensitize me, and I mentioned the army fatigue. All of a sudden, after that video, I noticed they were wearing the army more, and I was seeing the army fatigue in the stores more than I was seeing the plaid. And so it's now this weird thing where it's switched to them wearing the army fatigue more than the plaid to sensitize me. And I see the plaid every now and then, but it's mainly the army fatigue that they're throwing on now. It's crazy. They might switch back to the plaid now that I made this video. They're having a field day with this shit, y'all. A field day. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. So anyway, the dude came out, walked by the gang stalker, and he was an older guy too. Both of them looked older. They looked like they might have been in like their 50s, both of them. So he walks by this black guy, and he's wearing a white shirt and the red pants and the red hat to sensitize me. And he makes this big show of dopsing up the dude and waving at him, the guy that was smoking the cigarette. Again, I guess to show camaraderie shit between the races. And I'm like, you don't have to do this. Like, I don't have an issue with this. And this was never a thing for me. Like, I literally shared what I shared in my car out of anger at my big old age of however old I was. I think I was like, 31 when the thing happened. It's like, I don't have a history of doing this. They keep sending me stuff about change and all this. I don't have a history of sharing offensive stuff. I don't need to change. What needs to happen is this needs to change. What happened is I had an angry, reactive abuse reaction, not justifiable. I shouldn't have said the things I said, but you cannot predict how somebody's going to react to trauma, PTSD, and rage, being attacked by all these different people. I've never been in trouble in my life. And then you have all of these people, almost like a whole state of people, chasing down this one person doing these crazy things. And then the person has a reaction, and then you freaking villainize them for the reaction. It's like a crazy ass program, but that's how the thing is designed. And a lot of targets have these heinous reactions, and then their targeting level goes higher. It's like this thing that's designed to like put you deeper into the thing if you don't learn how the thing works. Anyway, so that's something that was happening to me more so at the beginning of the year. I managed to tamper down on it, where whenever it didn't even have to be a gang stalker. Whenever I would see a white person, that specific word that I shared in my car that pertains to the ideology I was sharing, I even made a video about it, would start popping in my head and I couldn't control it. And I wasn't doing it intentionally. It was just sensitization. Because with the technology, they were pounding stuff in my head, and all I could think about was the stuff I shared in my car. So now it's happening again. But not as intense. It's like this thing, it's like off and on with these things, even with the sensitization with my niece, because of the fake narrative that was created with the text. I started healing myself. Every time I would see a young female, sometimes it didn't have to be a young female. Typically it would be a younger looking female. Sometimes it would be an old lady. So I've already told you guys this, right? They have sensitized me so much to woman in general. It can be an elderly woman. It can be a young woman. It can be a woman around my age, middle-aged woman. It can be an unattractive woman. It can be an attractive woman. It can be a skinny woman. It can be an obese woman, a female. I'm sensitized to woman. It's to the point where an old woman can make my brain tick. Old ladies be making my brain tick sometimes because I'm so sensitized. And my niece's name will be popping in my head. It's this crazy weird thing. It's programming. Similar to that thing when I see that race, that word wants to pop in my head and I can usually cut it off. Like the E might pop in and I could cut the thing off. But sometimes I lose the battle. Same thing with the female thing, man. Like it's like my niece's name will pop in my head sometimes. And that too recently, in addition to the race sensitization, that word that pops in, those two things, recently I've been losing the battle with it. Not totally, but it's been ticking worse. I think the niece thing is happening because of what happened in the gym, where it's like I told y'all in that last video, that's what the whole purpose of the last video was. I told you that I noticed an amp up in gang stalking, not just necessarily in the gym in particular, just in general, gang stalking tactics ever since I just started, doing more in the gym. That's what really happened. I documented it. And I started gaining weight and they started doing more things. I started lifting heavier on the Smith machine. And that's when I noticed an amp up in gang stalking activity and then all these young females coming in, new faces that I wasn't seeing when I first started going to the gym in the morning. I was going for a good 2-3 weeks and I wasn't seeing these faces. And then slowly but surely, I started noticing more and more of these young faces, these young looking females in the gym. And still that wasn't making my brain tick because these videos helped me so much. And I think they realized that. So they started to propel, theater. Like I said, certain antics being done to create the tick, whether it be flying the insect drone around when the female is passing by, or having the female bend over in my face while I'm trying to squat, or, having her come and look at her watch and then bend over by me, or having her tap me and ask me about the machine I'm using. These are the things that started happening rather than just having the female present, because they realized the tick wasn't happening anymore. So this is what I'm dealing with the targeting, like actual real MK Ultra mind programming, and then gaslighting about me being programmed and my brain ticking, or the name that's associated with what you're programming me to popping in my head. And it's similar to the race thing, but it's just because they don't like me. They keep sending stuff and trying to insinuate that they're trying to humble me, or it's this thing where they're trying to humble me and break me or something. Like they feel like they needed to humble me. And it's like, how much more humbling do you need to do? Everybody's humbling looks different. It's like, just because I'm not busting down in the road or the street doesn't mean that I haven't been humbled. Obviously, with everything that happened, I've been humbled. This is an overdue now. It's just like an overdue and punishment. You're just wilding out now. It's just fun for you now. So anyways, oh boy, let me get to the point though, y'all. So talking about the race thing though. So that's the thing now, that's the thing that's starting to happen now again, where that what was happening to me at the beginning of the year that I had kind of managed to start to control is happening whenever I see like a white person. It doesn't happen every time. I've already said this before. It's like I can see the same sensitization back to back, right? And it will not happen. The tick won't happen with one person, and then with the next person it happens. Same thing with the female thing. Like I can see one young lady and the tick won't happen, and then I see another one and the tick happens. I can't control when it's going to happen. It just happens. It's this weird, crazy thing. It's horrible. And my thoughts are being projected and they're having a field day with this thing too. So now too, though, I think what's amping it up more for me is, I think, what started happening in the gym with this guy, with this new tick that's in my head. And what propelled the stupid thing, again, I keep saying this, was what happened 2 months ago. At this point, it's been about 2 months. Time is flying like this. What propelled that thing was what happened 2 months ago. Been working out with this guy. I keep saying this since the beginning of the year. I was not having the issue I'm having now. What happened is a couple months ago, I played this video because they sent one of those creepy narratives. There are many false narratives swirling with my targeting. Spitefully, they're trying to make me feel accused because they claim I bear false witness. Although my bearing false witness wasn't technically bearing false witness if you really listen to my story. I've really technically only bared false witness once, back in my early 20s. Anyway, whatever. So that's what it is. I'm just throwing all these false narratives at me, and it's really just that they feel like I need to be humbled, and they don't like the fact that when I told my story and tried to advocate for myself because I was dealing with injustice, they don't like the fact that I mentioned certain people in my story, even though I had to mention them because they were a part of my story. I didn't say names. It was when they started accusing me of lying for certain things. That was when I started digging and doing research and like providing receipts, and it's just craziness. I should have just left it at whatever they were saying, then let them feel like it was a lie and just left it like that, and not, provided receipts and all that other stuff. But anyway, so that's really what the tiff was, why things worsened, but that's not the cause. They keep trying to gaslight me like this is because of the videos. No, it's not. Let's not forget that for 2 years I was dealing with the targeting here on island and gang stalking in that old neighborhood, in addition to many other things, and I didn't make any video. Instead, I packed up my stuff quietly and humbly, and I decided to leave because I thought that I could do that. I had a good resume, and I figured that this thing wouldn't follow me. I didn't commit a crime. The thing followed me. I had the reactions I had. It went viral and worsened, and I got deeper into this thing when I have yet to commit a crime. And so then I came home, and that was when I decided to sit there and make videos and talk about what happened in my story and why I felt like there was some sort of spiritual attack on me. Because again, remember, this is a high science technological program, and I had yet to learn the technological aspect of it. So for me, all the weird stuff that was happening before I learned the things that I learned looked like witchcraft. I really thought that's what was going on. And they took me saying that and used that as an example of me bearing false witness again. And then that became something that they were throwing at me, an accusation that they started throwing at me, in addition to many other things. Anyways, the most I'm gonna deal with it though. I'm not worried about it. So anyways, and he keeps keeping me safe too, despite all the craziness. Anyway, so next thing, y'all, kind of just want to talk about this race thing though, and what led to me sharing what I shared in my car. I've talked about it in many videos. I don't need to talk about it again, and this won't be a long video because I've talked about this in so many other videos, but I just, again, want to send a reminder of why, or give a reminder of why I shared the things I shared in my car, because they started instantly when I made the last video and I didn't expound on, the race thing. I said I was going to get back to that, and I just made like this kind of blanket statement, and I said, a lot of the things that I shared in my car, I had learned in my household growing up, so I had already known those things. And I said that, I grew up in this household where it was kind of like this one love household, where my father was Rastafari. My mom, she didn't necessarily identify as Christian, but that's basically what you would call her. And we didn't really have a title. We just believed in the Bible. And so we didn't go to church. We were not a church-going family, I'm not going to lie. But we believed in the Bible. We were God-fearing. And every Sunday, we would get together. Before we started keeping Sabbath on Saturday, we would get together when we were growing up and sit down and read the Bible sometimes, right? But as a kid, you're not taking that serious. Like, you're taking the understanding serious. Like, I always had a fear for God in me. But, like, the stuff we were reading and the stories we were reading, it was just that to me. Just like fables and, stories. That's what it felt like. And it wasn't anything so serious like what it turned into when this new ideology was introduced. So that was our life and that was our history growing up in this household. It was like this kind of one love type of thing. It wasn't anything intense or anomalous, I guess. I don't even know how to describe it. I even told you I went to private school. So it's like I had a diverse background. I used to sleep over at my friend's house. A lot of them were white. I have white friends that were here on island. I used to sleep over at their house. Like it wasn't anything prejudice or, any weird environment that I grew up in. It wasn't until high school, really, when I had a parent come home, my father came home, and basically he had said that his friends had taught him this new understanding from the Bible. That's how it started. He said basically that his friends had learned that this new understanding about being Hebrew or being Israelite. So of course we're listening. Your father is the head of the household and the patriarch, so of course you're going to listen. He never led us astray. And I grew up in like I said, a God-fearing household where we were taken care of and, good upbringing, taught to respect our body. Good upbringing, man. It wasn't anything weird going on in the house, so there was no reason to question what was being brought in. So anyways, he started just kind of telling us a little bit about it and the fact that his friends had told him about it and it was making sense to him. And so basically it didn't start with him talking about other races. It was more so him focusing on us and African Americans. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into the ideology of it, but I want you to understand, because I'm being honest about what I shared in my car and where it came from, because I received a lot of backlash for it. So anyways, I'm talking about where it came from, right? And where that understanding came from. So anyways, I'm not here to preach. I don't care what anybody believes. They're already ready to rev up and act crazy. And then you also have the element of people who are riding for, the people I'm talking about too. And so they feel like, they don't want me to say certain things, I guess, or whatever it is. They just want me to stay here and keep getting stoned, I think. So anyways, I'm going to talk my truth. Anyway, so, I forgot what I was saying though. Because it's really not about that. I already realized that. They were even stopping in the road and doxing up the Hebrew group that actually does share the offensive content. No disrespect to them either, because again, now I might make enemies with them. I should have never even shared their stuff in my car. Nobody told me to do that. But they were even doxing them up at the side of the road. So I keep realizing it's not really about that. But then they're throwing at the same time subs at me about that stuff. So it's confusing. Like they literally sent me a video today with the army fatigue. I'm going to share it with you all. I'm going to have to turn the volume down or I'll get a copyright strike, right? With the army fatigue and the plaid in the scene. And basically it's like this black family and the son comes in with a white girlfriend and the son's wearing the army fatigue sweater and the dad's wearing the plaid shirt. And the mom is just being a complete bitch to this girl, because she's white. And she even says in the scene it's because the girl is white. So they're pushing that narrative hardcore, still doing what they're doing. but then expect me to feel like it's not about that. I mean, it's not about that. I know it's not, but you're giving me more flack because of that. It's getting worse because of that. So it's gotten worse because of that. It's at the high level that it's at because of that. So I don't understand. I think really what it is they keep saying this bully thing. I think they think I'm a bitch. And so I think even if that was my understanding, I think they feel like the way that I shared it in my vehicle was me being a bully or a bitch. And so I think that's really what it is. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what they're pushing at me. Maybe that's what it is. I don't understand. Anyway, that's really what it was, though. It was a moment of me being a bitch, because I can be a real bitch when I'm reacting to bullying and abuse. It's gaslighting. They're acting like I just sat there willy-nilly and decided to be a bitch to white people. That's not what happened. I dealt with gang stalking that took place in Indiana. It turned racially charged, and it wasn't white people's fault. I don't even know how to... it feels weird saying white people. I feel like that sounds offensive. I don't even know how to say it. Should I say Caucasian people? How do I say it without sounding offensive? I don't even know how to say it, really. But it wasn't that race's fault. It wasn't their fault that things turned racially charged, but it did turn racially charged, and I started dealing with some heinous treatment over there in Indiana. It was to the point, I talked about this already. I'm going to go to the video where I actually told the whole story, where I almost got ambushed by this group of people by a cornfield in Indiana. There was a white guy, he had his shirt off. And again, this is not specific to the whole race. I'm not saying every white person would do this to me. I'm sure a lot of them would probably be aghast and not do anything like this. But this person did do this to me. And I'm just telling you, there were events that took place, racially charged events, that added to the anger I was already feeling for dealing with injustice. And then I sat in my car in Florida and I shared offensive stuff. It didn't happen right away either. I sat in my car and I really was just going back to whatever it was that I understood to be spiritual protection. And I was looking at that in the Bible, and I was just looking at Hebrew videos about how to protect yourself from spiritual warfare. And they were attacking me in Florida like crazy. With so many cars on the road revving by and just doing crazy shit, man. And so I just started to share the offensive videos on purpose. It stopped turning into me watching the videos for protection, and more so me engaging the gang stalkers who were harassing me. And so that's when it turned into me sharing the offensive content. I didn't just offend white people. They were like one of the main groups I offended. And unfortunately, the group that I was watching, the Hebrew Israelite group that I was watching, are of the understanding of the belief of that offensive stuff. You know, I'm hearing a hammer. I don't know why. Like I said, anyways, you see how they're revving me and warning me, right? Again, it's not about the stuff I shared. I'm telling you it's not. That's not what it is. They just want me to be broken. They want to see me broken because they don't like me as an individual. It's not about anything that I said or shared, and I've come to that realization. Anyway, so focus. So back to, because I'm hopping all over the place. I'm again engaged. This is how it happens. This is live. You guys are hearing me engage the gang stalkers and going off on tangents in response to the Rev campaign. Like, that's literally how the thing works. You have these reactions to their abuse, and then you get gaslit about it. That's literally what happened in my car in Florida. Like, I was watching the Hebrew videos for myself, and they were using the shadow networking software on me. And every Bible verse that I was putting up somehow had something about things in the dark coming to light and lust and this and that. And I, again, at the time didn't know that they had this technology. They were setting the scene for a horrible, heinous reaction, and they got it too. And so they kept sending that stuff, and every time they would send it, I was aware of the fact that I was being watched, and they were revving up and on top of me, and so I started having these reactions, similar to what was happening to me last year, like anxious reactions and breathing funny, and like just like these really anxious reactions that would seem to the naked eye indicative of guilt rather than PTSD and trauma. And so I got angry. Of course, if you don't do something and all this is happening to you and you're getting anxious about it, and then they're getting on top of you more, you get pissed and wrathful. That's the next step. And so then that was what led to me engaging them. And instead of watching videos from me, I was purposely putting on offensive shit, anything I could find. And I did not just come for Caucasian people. I came for Christians. I came for a lot of different people, Catholics, Jewish people. Like, I came for like damn near everyone that I could come for in that vehicle. It was reactive abuse, and I know they understand it too. Again, they just want to punish me. They don't like me. Anyways, so, I mean, it's obvious I don't have an issue with white people, because right before my targeting, I keep saying this like a broken record. The last boyfriend I had before the targeting started was a Caucasian Colombian guy that actually lived with me for a few months in the Airbnb when the weird thing was happening. Anyway, So nonetheless, so just giving you the history of where the thing came from. Well, where I learned the stuff that I learned. So we were in high school really when my dad came home with that ideology, and he had learned it from his friends, and he never like this tyrannical type of person. He was never like, not to, again, to come for these people. I'm not trying to, again, make enemies with these people in purple. Everybody has freedom of speech. The Most High put us on this earth. We have the right to say the things we want to say as long as we're not physically hurting anybody. I'm not trying to make enemies with them either. I should have never shared their stuff because I knew I wasn't affiliated with them. So I'm not trying to make beef with them. But I'm just making it clear that even when my dad came home and was teaching us the stuff he was teaching us, he was never the tyrannical type, like how those guys that I was showing in my car are, where they're saying insulting stuff, like not only sharing the offensive ideology, but saying insulting things as well, like, and almost seeming to have a disdain towards that race. That wasn't the case in the household when my dad brought the ideology home. It was more so like, whoa, look, I found out this new stuff. Like, we're actually the true Hebrews, you know, like this type of thing like that. And it was more so focusing on us and African Americans rather than the other races and trying to throw them under, you know, whatever. And so when he came home and he was just telling us about it, we were just kind of like, oh, you know, like it sounded like foreign info, but we're listening, you know. And so then he showed us, I'm not going to go into details about the ideology again. I'm just going to tell you why it made sense to us, just the Hebrew part. He showed us Deuteronomy 28, and he was showing us the curses of the Israelites, and it matched up with the African American slave trade. And so from there it was history, because that seemed to make sense at the time. And again, I was a child too. I was in high school. You know, we were kids and we were learning, and again, never led astray. And I still don't feel like, you know, that my father would lead us astray. I think this ideology just made sense to him, and he came across it. His friends shared it with him, and he shared it with us. It wasn't this, you know, get down on other races or insult other races or be prejudiced type of thing. It was more so just a focus on African Americans, like, whoa, we actually might be the true Jews. Look at Deuteronomy 28. That's what it was more like, rather than, oh, you know, white people are this and that. It wasn't that type of thing in the household. And actually that part of it didn't come until after, and it still wasn't him insulting them. It was more so just like, oh, I learned this now too, you know, that kind of way. So the start was just him telling us that part, you know, like that we're the true Jews, and here's the evidence, Deuteronomy 28. So we're just listening, and of course in high school I wasn't taking that seriously. Again, it's not like I wasn't listening. It was like I believe in the Bible, but still I'm just living this carefree life as a teenager, and this isn't that serious for me. It's just another belief system. It's just another religion. That's what it felt like at the time. So then he came again and started telling us, like, we're supposed to take this thing literal, like the Bible, like it's a history book type thing, and every human or race on this earth derived from some sort of lineage in the Bible. And so that was when that part of it came into play, where he was trying to tell us from his understanding or from his friend's understanding. And still there's arguments, by the way, even now to this day, in the Hebrew Israelite community. Again, I don't identify as Hebrew. I keep saying that. They can make the noise all they want. You keep sensitizing me to race, so we're going to talk about it now. Anyway, even to this day now, in the Hebrew Israelite community, and again, I say I don't identify as Hebrew anymore. This was an eye-opener for me. I just believe in the Most High, and I believe in the Bible. I'm focused on my salvation. I'm not the judge or jury. I'm far from perfect. So how could I ever even say anything about anyone else? And also, too, just from some of the things I've saw, I definitely feel like everyone has grace, period. Anyway, so that wasn't really what he was bringing in the house either. It was more so just telling us the lineage. Like, this person is this person, and that person is that person, and so he started doing that. Like, he at first was just like focused on us, like, we're the Jews, look at Deuteronomy 28. And then he started showing us the other stuff, like, okay, so this race of people is this person, this race of people is that person, and showing what Bible verse would lead to why that was the understanding in that group of Hebrews. Because even to this day there are debates about who's who. Like, the main consensus in the Hebrew Israelite community is that African Americans are the true Jews. As for everyone else, like, there are really major debates in that community. Even that it's now offensive because of the things that came along with that lineage, what was being shared in that specific Hebrew Israelite group. But even with that offensive E word, that it's now offensive, that I was sharing about Caucasian people in my car, that's an argument a major argument in the Hebrew Israelite community. There are a lot of people that do not even believe that white people are that thing, that E thing. I'm just going to say the E thing. There are a lot of people that don't believe. There are a lot of Hebrews that do. Yeah, my phone died in the last clip, and hours later when I got to work, I ended up finishing up the video and continuing on. But just now listening through the different clips I made, I realized in that last clip when my phone died, when I moved on to the next clip hours later at work, I didn't comment on the fact that the phone died, and that's why it cut off abruptly in the last clip. I just said continuing on with the video, and didn't really even reference the fact that the phone had died, and that's why I had to make a new clip, right? And then I didn't even go right away back to the point that I had left off on in the last clip. I did eventually get back there, but I started, ranting and raving about, not really ranting and raving, but documenting the fact that when I got to work, there was no electricity. And the same thing happened last night at my other post. But they ended up giving me the current back, so that's a good thing. You'll hear that in the video. Anyway, so that's why I made this little clip here, y'all, just as like glue between the next clip you're gonna hear and the last clip. So that's what happened. That's why the clip cut off abruptly. My phone had died, and then I didn't really continue on making the video until hours later, and I forgot to address the fact that the phone had died in the last clip. All right, y'all. So continuing on with the video, y'all, instant retribution, right? That part 1 video that y'all see on the screen that says 5.5 hours, the impeding of the targeted individual's life. When I created that video, y'all, I didn't really get instant retribution. In fact, after making it, I went to the store and I thought I was going to sell a bunch of gang stalking, and surprisingly, I saw none. Like, you usually at least see one plaid shirt or one army fatigue outfit. I saw nothing when I went to the store. The only thing I saw was somebody wearing the short black pants, one person. But I didn't really see anything else other than that when I created that video. So I thought everything was okay, because I was really just documenting what really has taken place over the course of the last 2 weeks, ever since I started gaining weight. And it's this weird thing, and I've heard other targets say this too, where they try to shut you up. When you're receiving the abuse and the injustice and whatever it is that they do to you in the targeting, if you talk about it or you try to document what's going on, you get retribution, like instant retribution. And it's just this crazy thing where you're supposed to just take the abuse and be hush-hush about it. And if you talk about it, they do more to you. And so now it's this thing now where I'm getting to work and I'm sitting in darkness, right? So I went to work last night, and I try not to do these videos about work. I already told you all what happened a few months ago with work. So I have been avoiding videos about work like the plague. But at this point, I have to document what's happening, because it's kind of reminiscent of what happened a few months ago. And then it's like, just certain gang stalking activity, me documenting it. And then the next step was me actually, almost losing my job. So I feel like I need to talk about this. But still, I have to be careful, because like I said, God forbid it could lead to that. And this, at this point, is the only form and source of income that I have. I already told you all it's difficult for me to get a job at the moment with the targeting, despite all the experience I have and the education that I have. But that's how this thing works. Remember, it's a gridlock system. And like I said in my more reactive abuse video, if you scroll down a little bit, if they decide to collaboratively get together and say, we're not hiring her, they can do that. That's how this thing works. It's a gridlock mob-like system. And if they decide to put you in this program, they can do whatever they want to you, because it's what you call group effort and group mentality. Mob mentality is what I meant to say. And it's like a group effort to malign the target, basically. And it's not a matter of right or wrong. There's no objectivity to it. Oftentimes with targeting, it's just bias and subjectivity, and people going off of personal feelings, and you have no rights. The Constitution is a fallacy. They make it seem like you have all of these rights, and you don't. If you piss off the wrong person, you can easily get thrown in this program, and that goes out the window, which makes you realize that thing is a fallacy. There's no such thing, and it's not a race thing either. I've seen white targets, I've seen black targets, I've seen Spanish targets, I've seen Asian targets. Every race you can think of, I have seen targeted. So it's not a race thing. They are targeting just about anyone if you piss them off, if you piss off the wrong person. You get thrown in this, everybody starts to mob against you, and the institution does not exist. You have no rights. Anyway, and so just understand that means no one has rights, because they can do this to anyone at any given time. understand that. Anyway, I need to hurry up, y'all. As you can see in the upper right-hand corner, I have 35% battery. Fortunately for me, when I was working at the other school, I was doing this thing where, because I saw that they sometimes take current at that school, they like to take the electricity like what they did here tonight. I started to make sure my phone was fully charged. And I didn't think about them doing it here because they've never done it at this school. And I don't know why I didn't think about that when I'm making this video, and they were literally trying to shut me up earlier when I was making the prior clips that you heard. So I don't know why I didn't think to charge my phone fully. That would have made sense. So now I'm sitting here in the dark school, trying to and still finish this video. I'm not letting them shut me up. So I need to try to hurry up though, y'all, because I'm going to be sitting here all night with no phone. And if you've ever worked security or a job where it's, not much to do other than kind of sit around, it's hard being without a phone. And also it's unsafe. It's not really a safety issue because they're watching me. They have like insects and birds and bats and bees and frogs and all these kinds of different drones, and including gang stalkers sitting on top of me. So that's the only reason I'm not really flipping out the way that I would have really typically flipped out if I had really felt like I was sitting here by myself in this dark school. But still, it's just this thing where it's like I'm going to be sitting here all night twiddling my thumbs with no form of communication. You still don't want to be without communication when you're doing security and a female, you know what I mean? So anyways, let me try to hurry up and finish the video, y'all, because I'm not letting that shut me up. I'm still doing my video. But yeah, that's what's going on, though. Just documenting what's happening at work now. It's this thing where they're now taking the electricity. The other night, they took the key for the gate at the other school that I was talking about that they took the electricity at. I couldn't even get into the school because for that specific school, you're supposed to go through the gate to get into the school so that you can have access to the outlets and the bathrooms, etc. They took the key. I couldn't even get in the gate. Here at this school, they can't do that because there's no gate to get into the school. They just have the gate. Well, they have the gate to get into the main school, but there's no second gate to get onto the premises, if that makes sense. I can't really explain it. There's a gate for the premises, right? Let me explain this better. There's a gate for the premises at all of these schools. You open that gate, you drive into the parking lot. This school, that's it. I can walk into the school now that I'm on the premises. The other school, there's a second gate. Once you get on the premises and you get in the parking lot, there's a second gate that gates the school off. And if you don't have that key, you don't have access to the bathrooms or the outlets. So the other night they made it so that the key wasn't there. I had never experienced that before. I've been working at that school for months. Hadn't experienced that. That's what happened. I'm not really going to document too much about what happened because, again, I don't want to lose my job, and that's what can happen. I have no power in this situation. So I have to be careful about the documentation when it comes to work, right? So I'm documenting, but like not too much, I'm trying to be careful at the end of the day because you know how it is. Here at this school, I don't need a gate to get into the school. I just need a gate to get on the premises, to get into the parking lot, and then I can walk into the school. But they took the current here as well. So I have the school's in darkness. I have no outlet to charge my phone, So it's just terrible. It's terrible what's going on. All because I just want to talk and defend myself because they're slinging all these false narratives at me and basically nailing me to the cross because of the things I shared in my vehicle, including some of the people in my close circle participating in the shit show when, certain things took place as far as where I learned the info from. And it's so just like this kind of thing where I felt thrown under the bus and I wanted to talk about it. And I'm getting retribution for talking about it. And they were even making noise campaign earlier when I said it couldn't be about the race thing. It's got to be more than that. It's not the race thing. It's got to be more than that. They started making noise campaign. So obviously, it's not the race thing. It's not the fake child thing. It's obviously some further deeper thing. Like, I don't know, they think I'm a bully or something. I've already apologized for what I said. It was a response to what was happening to me. Anyway, so let me finish talking about what's going on though, y'all. So where I was at in the end of the other clip, I was just explaining to you what happened when my father brought the whole ideology home in the first place when we were in high school. Because we had never heard anything like that before in our life. As far as we were concerned, the Bible was what it was, and our understanding was, you don't take it, like, it's not to say you don't take it literal, like you do. A lot of people look at the Bible literally. Some people look at it allegorically. But we were looking at it in a literal sense, and where, yeah, some of these events likely took place on Earth. If you truly believe in the Bible, then that's your understanding. Everybody has a different perception. I'm not a preacher, and I'm not here to preach. I don't give a shit what anybody believes, to be honest with you. If you're an atheist, that's your business too. I don't care. Trust me. And I never did. I just focus on me. That's the kind of life I live. It's just that they were all harassing me in the vehicle, and so I started sharing offensive content, and then I got retribution for that. That's how the targeting works. Anyway, so that was our understanding, that we believed the Bible, yes, and we kind of took it literal in the sense, like, we do believe some of those events took place on Earth, like the flood, for instance. You know, a lot of people believe that, you know, even Christians. There's evidence in many different cultures that an actual flood did take place back in the day. Even in China, I believe there's some sort of story about a flood that took place. So you have different religions and different belief systems that sometimes have documentation of the same events. And so that's why some people would take the Bible literally. But it wasn't literal to the sense where we're thinking, like, this person came from this lineage and that person came from that lineage. Like, the understanding for the most part was that we're the Gentiles. And really, it doesn't matter who's who, because everybody's going to be saved anyway, so who cares? Like, that was the understanding prior to my dad coming home and bringing that ideology. So anyways, he comes home. And like I was saying at the end, you know, the initial thing was him more so just telling us about the African Americans being the true Jews and showing us why he felt that way, or why his friends felt that way, and what they were showing him. That was the initial thing. We were like, okay, this is not like something that seems crazy or out of the, you know, whatever. Like, okay, cool, whatever. This information sounds cool. It sounds legit. We're listening. Then, like, slowly but surely, as he's learning, he's bringing stuff home to us. He came home and started telling us, well, everyone else, you know, comes from a certain lineage in the Bible too. Like, for instance, and I'm not saying this to disrespect anyone, I'm literally just telling y'all what we were being taught and what the understanding was, and where I learned a lot of the stuff that I shared in my car. But my dad, again, I want to repeat this, because I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. I'm just saying, I'm talking about where I learned the info that I learned. And it feels like they threw me under the bus. Like, literally, they haven't done it recently. The people in my close circle be jumping into the freaking shit show and throwing race sensitization at me. Like, look at white people, and you know, doing stupidness like that, man. And putting on strippiness on their phone. Sometimes that hasn't happened in a long time. But putting strippiness on their phone when I'm walking by, you know, playing stuff about white people on purpose. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, we all know what really happened here in this house, you know? Like, I'm just like, I couldn't believe. Anyway, so it's just that I guess they feel like I shouldn't have shared the offensive content, you know? But it's just like, it was a reaction to what was happening to me. And actually, initially, again, I repeat, I was just going towards what I was taught in my house as spiritual protection. And for me, our religion was being Hebrew. So I was looking up Hebrew videos talking about spiritual protection. I wasn't talking about any of that other stuff. And they were using the shadow networking software to manipulate the videos and make it seem like, you know, stuff, it was saying stuff that it wasn't saying, you know, sending me stuff constantly, no matter what Hebrew video I pulled up about lust and drunkenness and this and that. And then I had all of these gang stalkers around, like I said, in vehicles watching me and stalking me and doing ref campaign and even pulling up on me and doing all kinds of stuff, throwing rocks on my roof, all kinds of crazy shit. And I was having these anxious reactions, and it turned to rage. And so I was no longer looking at the videos for me. I was literally purposely putting on the most offensive Hebrew Israelite content I could find. It didn't just come for white people. It came for Christians, like I said, Jews, Catholics, etc. Like, the most offensive stuff I could find pertaining to that ideology I was sharing in my vehicle. I don't have a history of doing that. Anyways, though, so back to what I was saying, rewinding back to high school when we first learned about this stuff in the first place. So my dad was, he started coming home and showing us other stuff about what his friends' understanding of the Hebrew Israelite ideology was. And so it wasn't now just teaching us about us and, okay, so African Americans seem to be the true Jews from our understanding. Well, now there are other races here on earth, and they come from the Bible too. And here's where this group of people came from, and here's where that group of people came from, and here's why we think so. For instance, some of them believe, at least, I'm not trying to talk about races or anything like that. I'm just trying to, again, explain to you what I was taught, so you can understand that those weren't foreign concepts that I shared in my vehicle. Foreign concepts to me, at least. So anyways, excuse me, I heard noise outside. Was like a vehicle parked outside the school. It looked like an electrical vehicle, like people that deal with the lights. But they were parked at the school just sitting there. They weren't really doing anything, and then I just saw them drive off. Anyways, so I forgot what I was gonna say. Totally forgot what I was gonna say now. That just threw me off. Y'all know I have ADD. It's so irritating. So then he starts coming home and telling us other stuff, like about what he was learning, So he starts telling us that, for instance, an example, I'm not going to tell you why this is thought or where they got the info from, because again, I'm not here to preach. I'm just giving you an example from their understanding. And again, there are different understandings in the Hebrew Israelite community. I'm not even advocating for it. I don't care anymore. Like, I just believe in the Bible. It doesn't really matter who's who. I don't care. But back then, this is what we were being taught. For instance, or example, they were saying like the Arabs were the Ishmaelites. That was their understanding. They felt like the Arab people came from Ishmael, and that was our brother. Hagar's child in the Bible. That was supposed to be our brother. They felt like that was the Arabs, right? So that's just an example of a people and where they did some tracing and why they felt like that group of people came from that lineage. I'm not going into the details of why they thought so, because again, it's not about me preaching or teaching the ideology, just giving you an example of some of the stuff I was being taught, right? And so then it turned into him teaching us about white people and where some of them believe, again, I emphasize some of them believe their lineage came from, right? Again, there's a big argument in that community. I'm not even going to use the word because at this point now, with the things associated with that word, the offensive ideology that was being shared, I don't even want to use the word anymore because at this point now it's almost like a racial slur because of the things associated with the word. But with that E word, that's what I'm going to say. Some people in the Hebrew Israelite belief system believe that was the Palestinians. Some of them believe other things. Some of them believe that it's albinos in Africa. Like, there are so many different understandings in that community. Like, it's not just any one thing, but there are Hebrews, I'm not going to sit here and lie, that believe that Caucasian people are the E word or descend from the E word, right? Just because that's the understanding doesn't mean that the other offensive thing that I purposely shared in my cart out of anger is what all Hebrews believe that Caucasian people are the E word, right? So with that understanding, there's this ignorant, and I don't want to say ignorant because I'm going to make more enemies. It might be like I'm coming for those people that believe whatever. Like, this, it's just this unfair thing. Everything I say, it's like it's creating more enemies jumping on top of me. But the reason I'm saying ignorant is because, I feel like from what I've read now, I need to do more research. That's the problem. I need to read the Bible for myself and really learn it. But from what I've read and later in the Bible, in the New Testament and stuff, it seems to me like everyone has grace. Like Matthew 3:16, I came to save the world, right? And there's this big argument in the Hebrew Israelite community, and they say, well, there were different worlds in the Bible, and so he was talking about the Hebrew world, and it's just this big argument because that's really a big argument in the Hebrew community. There are Hebrews that believe everyone has grace because of Matthew 3:16, where he says, I came to save the world. And then there are other Hebrews, like the ones where I was sharing the offensive content for, that will dig in the Bible and say, well, there were different worlds. There are points in the Bible where he references different worlds, and he was specifically talking about the Hebrew world. And for me, honestly, that doesn't make sense. I'm not coming for them. No disrespect. I don't want to make more enemies. It never really made sense, that part of the Hebrew Israelite understanding. And that was a big argument even in our household growing up, so you can understand. Especially since my grandma was quote unquote basically white. So my mom used to argue down my dad about it. And it wasn't this thing where my dad was like a tyrannical Hebrew. Like some of the ones in purple, no disrespect to them, where he was like, the white people, and saying all this crazy shit. And like, it wasn't ever anything like that. My dad's like a cool, chill guy. But it was more so like, but look, Mariska, look, this and that. Sorry, I didn't mean to say my mom's name. Look, this and that is saying this and that. Because he's like, I ain't sure either. He wasn't sure. But some of his friends were of the belief system that the Matthew 3:16 was specifically talking about the Hebrew world. And then some of his friends were like, nah, man, this thing is talking about everyone, the whole world. And so, of course, my mom was arguing him down and trying to say, like, it's the whole world, this and that, because obviously this is offensive, too. If we were to go with the understanding that some of those Hebrews were going with, then you're saying horrible stuff about grandma, So it's just like, it was a thing in my household. But anyway, so when he came with the, excuse me, I'm sorry. When he came with the thing about white people and he started saying the E thing and this is why we think that they're the E thing, It wasn't really a big deal or an argument because we hadn't heard any of the offensive understandings that came along with that understanding of thinking that they're the E word, right? We hadn't heard that offensive ideology. So we're just going along with it like, oh, okay, cool. We're just listening like it's not a big deal. Then he starts coming and telling us more like, yo, some of so-and-so believes that, whatever. I'm not going to go into the details. I don't want to go into the details of the offensive stuff. I already shared it. I can't take it back. It already happened. But just understand that he was teaching us some of the offensive stuff and not like in a militant way. Like, look, we got to believe this. This is the facts. It makes sense. This is what we're going to believe. It was more so like, I was taught this now about that group of people. This is why I think so. And it became like an educational debate in the house about it. Because, of course, that's hard to believe or even accept if that were even true. You're saying, like, basically, I don't want to go into the details of what that would mean, what was being said as far as that offensive ideology about that specific race goes. Some of them, I don't want to talk about it, y'all. It's just inflammatory and I open a can of worms. There's a certain amount of Hebrews that believe something offensive about that specific lineage, and I can understand why that would be offensive to everyone. Like, I get it. And it wasn't ever anything we really subscribed to hardcore in the house, right? It was something that was like an educational debate in the house. At a certain point, we did start to believe at a certain point in the household that maybe that race came from that lineage, the E thing, because of certain things we were shown. It started to make sense similar to the Hebrew thing. But when it came to the offensive stuff, that was always a debate in the house. So anyways, though, that's where I learned the info, just so you can understand. I learned it in my household first. But it wasn't anything like those videos that I was sharing. It was never that type of environment in my household. And it was never this militant, tyrannical thing where like white people saying horrible shit about white people. It was never like that in my household. But that was an ideology that was shared in my household. This wasn't, I keep saying this, none of that stuff that I shared was foreign to me. None of it. So anyways, it was kind of just this thing like, well, let's just focus on us, because the other stuff doesn't really matter. Trying to focus on who's who. We're not God. Like, that's crazy anyway. Trying to interpret and pick apart the Bible, because there are so many different perceptions and understandings of the Bible, really and truly. And so it's really a matter of opinion, I think, because who's to say that you're right and the next person is wrong, really? You could read one thing and get a whole different meaning than someone else. That's just how that works. So anyways, that was something that we were never tyrannical about, that understanding. It was more so just something that was taught in my household, though. And it came to a point, too, where it wasn't necessarily you can only date this person, this group of people, because they're only going to be saved. That wasn't the belief system in my house. It was more so just this thing, kind of like, what's the example I want to give? Like what's an example I can give? Not the Quakers. What am I saying? Not the Moors. I'm trying to think about that group of people. Oh my God, what's the name of that group of people? Is it the Quakers? Not the Quakers. What's the name of that group of people? Is it the Amish? I can't remember, man. I don't want to say wrong thing. But it was this kind of thing where we were started to be taught that we could only date like Hebrews. And it wasn't a thing where it's like a race thing where, you can only date this race of person. It was more so like, it's more so like, I don't want to bring this group of people up again. I'm already making enemies left and right. But it's kind of like, like when you're Muslim and you have to date somebody that's Muslim, so they have to convert to Muslim. It was kind of like that in the household, where it's like you have to date somebody that believes this understanding and they have to be following the laws and this and that. So that's where like these restrictions on dating even started coming in, where we were being told like, you should try to date somebody that's Hebrew, basically is what we were being told. But again, it wasn't this tyrannical thing where you can't, like if we chose to date someone outside of the Hebrew thing, it's not like we would get lashings for it, but we were being encouraged to date somebody that was Hebrew. I even remember it was this big thing. I'm not going to go into details about that, y'all. Anyway, so that's where I learned this stuff. I learned it in my household. And there were even debates in the household about some of the info we were learning, really and truly. But it was never this tyrannical thing. And my dad was never like this prejudiced person that was screaming racial slurs about white people. Never. Not like the stuff I was sharing in my vehicle. It was never that extreme. But anyway, so years later now, the thing happens, what happened to me in Indiana, and, it turned racially charged. I told y'all I even got ambushed by a cornfield. And so when I got down to Florida, you know, it wasn't like straight away I sat in my car and I said, I hate, you know, so-and-so people. And I just decided to purposely put on, you know, offensive content about white people. That's not what happened. I sat in my car, and at the time, my understanding or my religion was being Hebrew. That's how I was raised for many years. From high school up until that point, I was Hebrew. That was all of our understanding. It wasn't this thing where I'm specifically just targeting out this one race. It was more so like, okay, well, if you're Christian and you're going through spiritual turmoil, you're likely going to put on Christian videos, right? Talking about spiritual protection. For me, my belief system or my religion at the time was being Hebrew. So I put on Hebrew Israelite videos talking about spiritual protection from spiritual attacks. That's what I was looking at. I wasn't looking at anything about race. And they kept attacking me. They were doing it via the technology, using the shadow networking software to send subliminal messaging about lust and things in the dark coming to light and all this kind of horrible stuff that would apply to the fake narrative that was created from the text. I didn't know the technology existed. So for me, it felt like witchcraft. I was more convinced that I was under spiritual attack. And then they're all speeding by in the cars and attacking me while they're sending me these narratives, right? No matter what video I put on, no matter what video I typed in, no matter what Hebrew group I was listening to, every freaking video I was putting on had that sensitization in it, and they're attacking me, and I'm having these nervous, anxious responses because I can feel them all staring at me, and they're actually driving and pulling up on me and doing crazy things. It was like hearing the Bible was enraging them or something. I wasn't even sharing offensive stuff at the time. They were just worked up about the things that had happened in Indiana, the reactions that they saw on camera. So I started to get pissed, and I was no longer watching the videos for myself. I purposely put on the most offensive Hebrew Israelite group I could find. The guys in purple, no disrespect to them. I don't want to make enemies with them, right? They have their own understanding and their own way of operating. No disrespect to them. I'm not trying to make enemies with them. I'm really not. I don't want to. I shouldn't have shared their content. I wasn't affiliated with them, and I had no right to share their content. Not trying to make enemies with them either. Anyway, so I just started to purposely share that specific group's stuff, and a lot of it's offensive. Like, it's coming for Christians. It's coming, you know, even in my household, my dad was teaching us that you're supposed to keep Sabbath on Saturday rather than Sunday. And a lot of those controversial things that I shared in my car, he was teaching us some of that stuff, but it wasn't in an offensive way. But he was teaching us some of that stuff, like you need to be following the Sabbath on the seventh day, which is Saturday, and these are the things we were being taught in the household. But it wasn't like the stupid Christians or, you know, the horrible stuff that specifically, you know, I don't even want to make it the guys in purple thing. I think it's just some of them that are like that. I don't know. I think a good bit of them are like that. But I've seen some of them that seem kind of peaceful. Like even the ones down here that were on the side of the road, they seem kind of irie, you know. So I think some of them are peaceful, even if they are following that, you know, group of people. But some of them are really, like they started to send me sensitization when I was up there in Florida, and they started calling the guys in purple the purple gangsters. It was just terrible, man. It's calling them the purple gangsters. It's horrible. And they ain't banging or ganging, but it's like they're saying a lot of offensive stuff and like stuff that's just not necessary, like insulting stuff, you know. You know, if you have this perception, whatever your perception is of the Bible, that's your prerogative, but it's just the way they're sharing it, you know. It's like really offensive and insulting. Like they were literally like the stupid Christians, like it was like that level of bad. And I was that angry, I was purposely sharing that stuff. Like I've never shared that stuff before, and I was sharing it. But I can tell you, in the household growing up, when we were learning this Hebrew stuff, my dad did used to debate my grandpa. My grandpa was a devout Christian. All the way to his dying day, he was a devout Christian. He went to this Christian church down here, and they all knew him. He was like almost, you could say, as good as being the pastor in that church. My grandpa was like a patriarch in that church down here. For years, always been Christian, and that's the household my dad grew up in. But then later in life, my dad turned into a Rasta, which is not bad. You know, that's Irie. That's a one love type thing. But then later in life, when I was in high school, that was when he came into the Hebrew Israelite ideology. And he did used to debate my grandpa about the understanding. Again, it wasn't in this tyrannical way. It wasn't like the guys in purple where it's like the stupid Christians and all this kind of, it was nothing like that. But he did used to sit there and have like, similar to like what he would do in the house with us and with my mom, these educational debates about why he felt or his friends felt like this was going on and why this is the case. And so we did see some truth in some of the things he was sharing at the time back then. Like we did, to us, it made sense that African Americans were the true Jews. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm not a liar. That's one thing I'm not. We sat there and we saw truth in that back then. It made sense to us, what he was showing us. But then when it started coming to the other races and showing us the other races and then saying specifically about that race that I offended, some of the offensive ideologies that they were coming into, that was where the debates started. Because it's just like, no way, like, we believe everyone has grace, and that's, you know, it's not that kind of thing. But there's just specifically with that race, there is an offensive ideology out there in the Hebrew Israelite community. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure people have seen it already because of the stuff I shared. And actually, it's such a big thing now in this day and age. There are so many people coming up with that belief system that I know it's something that's more known and out there now, because before it was something that was foreign. Even to us, we had never heard about that shit before when we were in high school. When my dad came with that, we're like, what is this? This is a new religion, Hebrew. What's that? You know, like, we had never heard anything about that before. It's not like in school where you hear about Judaism and you hear about Christianity and Buddhism, and that's not a common, it's not a common understanding. At least it wasn't. And in this day and age now, it's becoming more and more of a thing. But back then it was not heard of like that. When my dad brought that to us when I was in high school, that was like foreign. We had never heard about that before. So anyways, so that was kind of what used to happen in the household. Like, he used to debate my grandpa too. Like, my grandpa, he's trying to get my grandpa to do Sabbath on Saturday, and my grandpa's like, Davey, relax, you know, it's Sunday, whatever day, as long as you worship in the Lord. And so my dad's trying to show him, well, no, it has to be Saturday because it says the seventh day is when you're supposed to keep Sabbath. And so it used to be little debates like that, similar to some of the stuff I was showing in my car, but it wasn't offensive. It wasn't like the stupid Christians and then, you know, some of the other like offensive, really controversial conspiracy type stuff I started digging into. It wasn't that, man. It was like we had the understanding, and I had learned a lot of that stuff in my household, but it wasn't the way that it was being taught in my car, and it wasn't specific things that I shared, like some of the offensive stuff. And specifically with the white people thing, that was always a debate in my household. And it was never anything that my dad was super tyrannical about either. He was just like this, I don't know type of thing, but hey, this is one of the things that people are thinking. What do you think about it? And of course we were like, no, hell no. And whatever, that's what it was. So in my car, I purposely shared the offensive stuff. I mean, it is what it is. I already knew about that stuff, though. It wasn't foreign to me. That's all I'm trying to say. None of that stuff was foreign to me, I'm telling you. But I shared it out of anger. I started to purposely share that group that shares really offensive stuff out of anger because of what was happening to me. And of course, it just made the already unfair situation, much worse. So that's what's going on. I'm just trying to say I don't hate white people. I don't have an issue with white people. If I hated white people, I would have never had a white man, again, I repeat, living with me. Because although his nationality was Colombian, his ethnicity was white. When he was filling out his application, I was helping him with one of his applications. He had a lot of applications that he was filling out. He was checking off Caucasian for his ethnicity. He was white, but he was Colombian, his nationality. He looked white. He could pass, like, you wouldn't even know that he was Colombian. And really, that's an ignorant thing to say. Duh, they're a white Colombian. So I don't know what I'm saying could pass. I'm saying stupidness. They're white Colombians, just like there are white Dominicans, and there are different ethnicities in every nationality that you can find, really. So anyways, he was living with me before I ever became targeted, before I moved home and sent the stupid text. And when the Airbnb bullshit was happening, I talked about this in my full story. In the second Airbnb, he was living with me. He was hearing some of the stuff that was going on with the storage man too, in the next room. But anyway, so I don't hate white people. I don't have an issue with white people. I don't have an issue with interracial dating because I've done interracial dating myself. So they don't need to keep sending me stuff about changing and white people holding hands with black people. I don't need to see that stuff. I grew up with that. I went to a private school. My best friends were white and all other ethnicities as well. I don't need to see that stuff. Really, what's going on now is I'm sensitized to that race just like I'm sensitized to children and females because of what they've done with the targeting and the programming my brain. And now I feel awkward with that race. I'm just being honest with you. Like, I can't even watch them on the screen comfortably. Like, I feel like this awkward, stupid look gets on my face. There are different sensitizations that make me get the stupid, awkward look. It's when white people come on the screen. I'm keeping it real with you. At this point now, Spanish girls, because they've sensitized me to that. And that's nothing offensive that I said in my vehicle. They really took something I said in transparency in my full story. I didn't even say anything about Spanish girls, by the way. What I did was I was talking about that guy from high school that I mentioned in the earlier clips. And I'm not meaning to bring him up again either. I'm not trying to do that. But I was just talking about the insecurity I had with my own self because of some of the things he said about what his preference was. And so I think they did the research and found out who he was and found out that he married a Hispanic girl. And so that's why I believe they purposely started at the beginning of the year sensitizing me to Hispanic women. that I never said anything offensive about Hispanic women. So now at this point, I'm sensitized to females in general. It doesn't matter what the race, ethnicity, age, looks, body size is. I'm sensitized to females, so oftentimes when they come on the screen, I'll get the stupid look on my face, and they know I'm getting the look, and they'll start doing noises in the background on purpose. And so I start doing this dumb thing where I'm looking off to the side of the screen instead of looking at the person because I'm feeling awkward about it. But it's women, females, it's white people in general. It doesn't matter what the sex is. Spanish women now at this point, not Spanish men, but Spanish women, they've sensitized me to because of what I said in my story. They started doing that at the beginning of the year. I have the documentation. Y'all check out my videos. And what else do I get the awkward look on my face for? And children. So it's just like they've sensitized me to a lot of stuff, and I get these stupid awkward looks, and then they gaslight me about it and start sending like purposely heinous stuff with the targeting when they see me getting the awkward look. And it's not that I have an issue with the race, it's that I'm sensitized. It's PTSD. I know you're staring at me. It feels awkward. And then also too, now when I go out in public, if I see the race, that word might start popping in my head because of sensitization. And it's like I'm trying to stop it, and I've gotten good over the last few months at stopping it. I've actually been able to stop it from popping in my head. But then recently, that's what I was supposed to get back to, y'all, when I listened to the last clip. Y'all, I feel like that's the light vehicle that I'm seeing driving by, the people that deal with the light, but they haven't turned the light on. I don't understand what's going on. But anyways, recently, what I believe is triggering the thing to pop in my head again, similar to what was happening at the beginning of the year, I finally was able to get control of my brain. And so it would still happen off and on, like that would want to pop in my head whenever I would get around a white person, that E word. But I'm able to kind of, clamp down on it and stop it. I had gotten good at it, similar to the thing with my niece. Whenever I'd see a girl, especially a young girl, but it could be just a woman in general, my niece's name wants to pop in my head because of the sensitization and the programming that came along with that narrative in females in general. I was able to kind of clamp down on both of those tics, right? So the niece thing wasn't happening as much, nor was the E thing, that E word pop in my head. A couple months ago, right? What happened in the gym with that guy that I documented, the Italian guy, what happened in the gym with him a couple of months ago, what happened was, and I started talking about it in the last clip, and I realized that I went off on a tangent because they're doing so much noise campaign in the background, I didn't get back to what I was saying. I was talking about, how they had all these false narratives swirling around about me, and I started telling y'all what led to the whole awkward thing with him and I in the first place a couple of months ago. Because I've been working out with the guy, like I said, since the beginning of the year, and it hasn't been awkward. And I haven't been having these tics or acting awkward around him. He was just like another face in a gym, a random face, to be quite real with you. That I saw, sometimes he would heal me up, sometimes not, similar to some of the other guys, but it wasn't anything weird or awkward at all like what it is now. And really what it is a couple of months ago, again with the swirling of the false narratives, when my grandfather passed, they tried to be spiteful, push a false narrative with that as well. It was just really horrible what they were doing around that time. Like, no sensitivity. It's like, I understand you don't like me as a person or whatever it is, and you're targeting me and you're doing all of this, but come on, somebody just died. Like, really? And I documented, I ended up deleting the video because I listened back to it and I realized that it had some inflammatory stuff in it. The way I worded things really is what it is. I realized sounded inflammatory, and I think that's what created the reaction with that guy, the Italian guy. But the video wasn't even about race. The video was about me advocating for myself because they were now trying to push another false narrative as it pertained to my grandfather, who was 89, passing away. He was almost 90. He was elderly. Anyway, spitefully, they were purposely trying to push, that false narrative about me doing something spiritually wicked and me belonging to some, this weird, creepy thing they were doing that I realized it's so stupid. I'm a dummy for biting the bait so long. They're running all of this. They're in communication with the people that's running this technology. And my stupid ass, I'm allowing them to gaslight me and make me feel like they think I'm in communication somehow with some of the people that are watching me. It doesn't even make sense. Look, they put the light back on now. That's crazy. They're just playing one set of games with me, y'all, but I'm not going to complain. I'm just glad the lights are on. Anyway, I'm just glad the lights are back on. They're playing one set of games with my head. Let me just finish the video up, wrap it up, y'all, so I can just keep light, because I'm just glad the light is on. Anyway, so that was what it was. They're just trying to push a false narrative with my grandpa, man. My grandpa's passing. And so I remember making this video about it and being pissed off about it. And I said some inflammatory things in it. Nothing offensive about that race, but I did start bringing up some of the things that I shared in my vehicle and why I believe some of the government in the mainland has an issue with me and why I believe my targeting is so high. And so the way I worded things, I was angry at the time. I had just lost my grandpa and they were pushing a false narrative about it. I realized when I listened back to the video, the way I was wording stuff didn't sound, that's the problem. They're staring at you and judging you. You're dealing with all of these horrible things and you're not thinking like, oh, okay, I need to word things in a certain way, like to cater to the people that are watching. It's more so like, no, I'm just angry and I'm documenting what's going on. And so sometimes you say things in an offensive way. But anyway, so, forgot what I was going to say. So yeah, I listened back to the video after and I realized that's probably likely what caused what happened with the Italian guy 2 months ago. But anyway, so after that happened, remember I started working out in the morning time now. I was explaining to y'all in the earlier clips that because of this situation with the public transportation, I've been forcing myself to, after work, when I get off of the night shift, I go straight with my mom. She works, she's a teacher, and I get a ride with her to the gym and I'll go work out at that hour in the morning. And then I'll just go straight and catch the bus afterwards. And that's been working for me. I wasn't seeing him when I initially started doing this new schedule, right? I wasn't seeing him and I wasn't seeing a lot of the faces that I'm seeing now. I used to see him when I was working in the afternoons, like around 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock was around the time when I used to go to the gym. And that was when I used to see him. I wasn't seeing him. Then I played that video because 2 months ago, they started to push false narratives again, this time with someone else in my close circle who started texting me about some issue she was having with her stomach. And they started trying to push a false narrative again. And I was like, this is reminiscent of what they were doing with Grandpa. So I went to put the video on, and play it like I do sometimes whenever they're doing what they're doing and I want to defend myself. That's why I make these videos. Or I told you all this already. It's to document what's going on with me. It's to help other targets, so you can hear about the tactics and stuff and we can share info with each other, excuse me. But it's also to help myself because like sometimes I make these videos to advocate for myself and I know what I say makes sense. And so I'll play the video when they're doing a tactic and that's what I do sometimes. And so that's why I was playing the video. It wasn't about any of the offensive stuff that I realized I said in the video. And it seems to have again, offended people. And so I went to the gym to work out after playing the video. And I noticed this morning I was seeing the Italian guy. And I'm only saying Italian guy because I'm not going to say his name in the video. And at the time, I actually didn't even know he was Italian. The way I would have described him was racially ambiguous. Because, the world is a big melting pot. That's also to a big argument in the Hebrew Israelite community, by the way, y'all. It's like, how do you know? How can you trace back your bloodline all the way to know that you're even Hebrew anyway? Because it's like so many people are mixed up now in the world. It's like so many people have interbred with other people. Even if we talk about the slave trade, a lot of mixing happened. So it's just like, how could you even really try to go with that narrative? It's obvious, really, in my opinion, and other Hebrews as well, not everyone, that everyone is everyone, right? Like, it doesn't really matter who's who, you know what I mean? But anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I would consider him racially ambiguous because, like many other races, it's a big melting pot, the Italian nationality, right? And so a lot of Italians, to me and to other people too, they would be considered racially ambiguous. Like if you look at them, they might pass for Hispanic, some of them. You can't really tell what they are, some of them, right? A lot of them, actually. A lot of them could pass for Hispanic or some other mixed up nationality. And the Hispanic nationality in and of itself is a big melting pot. They're like a mix of white, black, Indian, right? So it's just that type of thing. Anyway, so that's what I thought. I knew the things I shared in my car might have been offensive to him, but I wasn't really sure for sure, how offensive. I wasn't sure, is he actually, I didn't know if he was actually the nationality that I had offended, or maybe just some mixed up guy that still found the things I said offensive. I just knew that he looked racially ambiguous and likely would have been offended by some of the things I shared. But I hadn't ever really experienced, major gang stalking, anything from him in the gym. He was just a presence that was there. And like I said, I did, hear somewhat of what seemed like directed convo at the beginning of the year, but nothing serious enough for me to make a video, nothing serious enough to create a tick or even an awkward environment. And I talked about the directed convo in one of the prior videos, y'all. I'm not going to go into it now. It was so minuscule and simple what it was. And it wasn't anything to even document, to be real with you. So it didn't create any friction or anything like that. But 2 months ago now, when I played that video for my grandpa, I noticed I go to the gym in the morning like how I had been doing. And I saw him there. He was working out, going ham, right? But he was doing this tactic that I told you some of the guys started doing in there. And they don't do it all the time. It's just whenever I think I pissed off the people on island, then I'll notice the tactic being used in the gym, but they don't do it often. Especially nowadays, since I've talked about it in my, in my videos, they really don't do it like that. But before, it was this thing where off and on they would do this tactic where whenever they're working out, they're doing this stupid noise like, oh, like in this mocking way. Because months ago, I was talking about the fact that I was doing progressive overload and I was trying to lift super heavy because I was trying to grow my muscles. And I said the stupid thing about when I was on the Smith machine, I'm making sure I go so heavy that when I'm lifting the weight up, I have to go to push it up off the ground. Like, I want it to be that heavy. You know, the funny thing is, y'all saw in the last video, if you watched the whole thing, that last squat I did, that 270-pound squat where I actually was able to finally get an ass to grass, I really was going, and I really couldn't help it either. It was actually so embarrassing. I usually try not to make noises, especially since that stupidness started. I really try not to make noises when I'm working out, but I literally was like, because the shit, like, I almost couldn't even get it up. That's just a side note. Anyway, going off on a tangent. I know, so that's something some of the guys do in the gym sometimes. Well, we're doing. They don't really do it anymore. It did kind of happen today, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But anyway, so they do that sometimes in the gym just to, like, mock me, basically. And so they're doing that. He was going ham. I had never heard him doing it before. And furthermore, I hadn't even seen him working out in the morning times. This was the first time I had seen him in the morning time there with me. And he was going ham too. And mind you, I already told you all this guy saved my life, right? Prior to seeing him here in the morning, that time when he was doing what he was doing, making the noises, when I was still working out at the same time as him, when I went to, this was months ago, y'all. I went up in weight on a Smith machine, and I went to 210 pounds, thinking, okay, it's just a 10-pound jump. I documented it. Y'all can see it. The video is titled Gym Fail, I believe. It's from months ago. Anyway, I tried to squat 210, and something similar happened to me today too with something else I was trying to do. Go up like just 10 pounds. Like, that's a major difference sometimes if you're already pushing it, and you're already at your limit with a certain weight. Anyway, I tried to do the 210 ass to grass. I just thought I would have it like that. And the thing, I didn't, I had the safety bars there. Thank God. That's also what saved my life. I was smart enough to have the safeties there, but I was cocky enough to not put it high enough. And so I had it at this low level, not even thinking I would need the thing. And the thing folded me like a pretzel. The barbell, it folded down on me. And thank goodness the Italian guy was nearby. And he said, oh shit, he ran over and he grabbed the barbell and pulled it up off of me, so that also saved my life, because it was like this thing where even though the safeties were there and it stopped it from completely crushing me, it still was pressing down on me and I was folded like a pretzel. So he pulled the thing up off of me, and even went as far as to help me do a squat afterward. He helped me squat and he said, oh, it's okay. He was giving me encouraging words. He was being nice to me. And so I think that created an awkwardness too. Really, that was where the awkwardness started, if I'm being honest with you. Because I'm an awkward person and I wasn't sure what his nationality was. And so it's just kind of thing where it was like I felt bad about it because he actually had kind of helped me. And I knew I had said these offensive things in my car. And so that race sensitization is there. And so, before that, I used to hail him up and he used to hail me up off and on. It was just one of those things. And after that, it was this awkward thing. Like, I'm just an awkward person. I always have been. And now with the targeting, I'm way more awkward. It just turned into this thing where I just didn't know if I should say hi, and so I'm avoiding eye contact, and it was just weird and awkward, and it didn't have to be. Anybody normal wouldn't have gotten awkward for something like that. But from there, it was really where the awkwardness started, but it didn't create a tick in my head. It wasn't like what's happening now, and it wasn't the level of awkwardness that's happening now. It was a whole different kind of awkwardness happening back then. Anyway, so now fast forward to a couple of months ago when I shared the video for my grandpa because they were trying to come with another false narrative similar to that one, but this time about someone else in my close circle. I played the video about my grandpa and how they were doing the same thing a few months prior. And so I believe some of the things I said in my video offended him and I guess other people. So I went to the gym. When I went back to the gym in the morning time, he was saying he's working out, he's going ham, legit working out. But he's doing that noise thing that some of the guys used to do. He's going, like making noises that he doesn't have to make. Like, it was unnecessary noises. And I could tell it was that thing that they do to me sometimes. So I remember just I wonder why he's doing that. I said, I'm pretty sure it's that video I played with Grandpa. And so I went home and I listened back to the video and I was like, shit, it is that video. And so I made a video about it, just kind of talking about the tactic and whatever else. I made a video about it. Basically, I took the video down, by the way, y'all. That specific video where I was talking about what he was doing, it's not up anymore. I took the video down. But anyways, I had already made the video, and so it created this awkward thing whenever I was seeing him, because he started becoming a consistent face after that. In the morning times, I consistently started seeing him after that. Like, literally every time I went in the mornings, I started seeing him. And he's not the only, like, you could say, new consistent face. I told y'all, slowly but surely, I started seeing some faces in there consistently that I wasn't seeing, like, for the first 3 weeks when I was going at that time. Anyway, so I started seeing him consistently, and it created like this awkward thing because I made the video, and I was just like, I wonder what in the video I even said, I don't even know what his nationality is. He's racially ambiguous, but he could be, the nationality or the ethnicity that I offended. I said that. And so then after I said that in the video I made about him, he started coming to the gym with the Italian flag tied around his head. And so I was like, okay, Italian. So he is the ethnicity that I offended. He just happens to look racially ambiguous because Italians are a big melting pot of people, like most nationalities and ethnicities at this point. Anyway, so it just created this awkward thing, man. And then one of the guys in the gym called him one day while I was sitting there near him. And so I heard his name, hear them revving by, because they're having a field day with this. I'm telling you, they're having a field day with this thing. They're having an absolute field day with this thing here. Anyway, excuse me. So one day I was sitting near him, in the morning. I was waiting to actually use the Smith machine, and he was using the leg extension machine, the machine right next to the squat machine. I was waiting to use it, because I was just following my routine, and he happened to be on the leg extension machine that day. So he's there, and he was doing the noises that day too, right? That was, going ham. And one of the guys in the gym called him. And when I heard his name, I was just like, fuck, excuse my language. But I was like, this is going to become a tick, because I was already now very awkward and sensitized specifically to him, especially once I saw the Italian thing and I realized, like, okay, this is someone I really offended. And I was already having, a past of, this awkward thing with him because he kind of pulled the barbell off of me. So that was already there. And then I heard his name. I'm like, oh my God. It was just like this tick just started with him. Like anytime I see him, his name ticking into my head, and it turned into this consistent tick. I've had this with several people, by the way. There was a coworker that I worked at the shopping center with that I had this awkward interaction with. And his name started ticking in my head on a regular basis too, even when I wasn't near him. I had a neighbor, an elderly neighbor, where the same thing happened last year when we moved in the neighborhood. At this point, I knew my thoughts were being projected. His name started ticking in my head on a regular basis, even when I wasn't near him. It's anybody that I either feel like anxious about or I have some sort of awkward interaction with. With the neighbor, it was this thing where I felt judged and embarrassed that they knew about the situation, and then we're moving into the neighborhood with them because we moved into my grandfather's house. And I grew up going to that house. For my whole life, my grandparents had that house. They owned that house. And so a lot of those neighbors, I grew up seeing and knowing, and not knowing on a personal level, but like seeing my grandma communicate with them and my grandpa and stuff. And so when we were moving in the house and I know these cameras are on me, it just created this tick. And I happened to know the neighbor across the street's name. And I used to see him all the time coming outside back and forth and stuff. And he's an elderly man. And his name started ticking in my head like crazy. They were making a big joke about it last year. They even started adding me on Facebook with people with that name, so it was just this big embarrassing thing. Then with the secretary for the job I'm working, I noticed that everyone's watching me all the time, and I'm getting judged for some of the reactions I'm having or the awkward looks I'm getting on my face for certain things. And sometimes I would get a text message from the job when something awkward would happen. So that's what created that tick with the secretary. Her name started popping in my head. They were having a field day with that too. They kept sending me her name, putting stuff on the radio and stuff. It was so humiliating. Every tick that's happened has been humiliating for me. Even though at this point you can see that it's happened with different people from different age levels, different sexes, different ethnicities, it's still embarrassing every time. But with this guy now, because I heard his name started ticking in my head like crazy. And it just created this awkward thing where his name started ticking in my head. Even when I'm not in the gym, the name's ticking in my head. And then also too, I had this fear of this thirsty narrative because he just happens to be a good looking guy. I mean, I have two pairs of eyes. I can see he's attractive, but I was seeing him in the gym before and that didn't really matter to me. I wasn't looking at him in that way. I really wasn't. And I'm not looking at him in that way now. I'm not saying I'm looking at him in that way now, but I'm just looking at the fact that his name is ticking in my head. And I'm just thinking about the false narratives they like to create, especially as it pertains to the gym. And so it started to create this fear in me, and in addition to just the awkwardness with him in general, you know, that's what created the tick in the first place. I'm just like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm being thirsty because his name is ticking in my head. And so that fear of thirst, you know, even though they know it's a bullshit narrative, that fear of them calling me thirsty created such an awkward, even more awkward environment and feeling, and it just made the thing tick in my head more. And so it's just, at the moment, that's one of the names, the main name really, that's the tick of the month. I call it the tick of the month because I'm telling you, soon enough it's going to be another name. It's funny, in the last video I was telling y'all about another tick that almost started happening, but you know, it's just these things where wherever I feel awkward about something, that's where a tick is created typically. And so his name is ticking in my head like crazy, and it's making the workouts really awkward, you know, because they can all hear my thoughts. I can tell they can hear it in real time. And so it's like, when his name is ticking in my head, it's humiliating. And so I'm fighting with myself trying to stop the tick. I'm working out super hard. I'm lifting super heavy. And while I'm lifting, can you imagine lifting heavy weight and having to war with your brain about thoughts that are pushing in that you feel like you can't control, and you know everyone around can hear? It's just like, it's making the workout even more tiring and draining and exhausting. And they will not stop sticking this man in the gym. Like, I am consistently seeing him there every morning now, and it's not a thing because he has a right to be there, right? Every right to be like everyone else. I don't have a problem with him. I actually like him as a person. I can tell he's a nice guy, but it's just tormenting to me because it's like, this tick is happening and it's embarrassing. And it's like, the more I see him, the more it's gonna happen. It's not gonna stop if I keep seeing him every freaking 3 days of the week, you know? So it's just like, it's not stopping. Anyways, and so they purposely too, like, you know, trying to do stuff with it now too, you know, because they know I'm embarrassed about it. Anyway, so now today, he's been pretty cool about it, to be honest with you. He hasn't really done too much as far as gang stalking and stuff goes. He hasn't really done too much, really and truly. But today, remember I made that last video. And in that last video, I did talk about him, and I talked about some of the people in the gym and how I was now consistently seeing his face as well as some other faces in there. I wasn't saying that in a way like to say, you can't come to the gym now. No, I was just literally saying that it does seem like gang stalking has started happening in the gym since I've been going in the morning. And I didn't necessarily call him a gang stalker. I was more so talking about the young females that I started seeing consistently in there. You know, that was really more so what I was focusing on and talking about, how they're sending all these young girls in the gym now all of a sudden to be spiteful when they know that too makes my brain tick. So anyways, he was there this morning, and he wasn't necessarily doing gang stalking stuff initially. He was really doing what he does every morning. Every morning he's over there at the area where he was at, and I noticed he's over there working out for the first part of the morning, and then people will come in and he'll train them. So he wasn't doing anything different than what he's been doing since he's been coming to the gym in the morning. I did something different because I made the last video, you know, and I talked about some stuff that, you know, whatever would make things kind of awkward in the gym. In order to avoid having to use the Smith machine at the time of my workout where I would typically use it, and where they were setting up these girls to work out in front of me, where initially it wasn't a problem until, like I said, they did some gang stalking, what seemed like gang stalking stuff. And I talked about it in my video, and so it's now created this awkward thing. And then I just didn't want to end up having to use the Smith machine at the same time and work out around those girls and my brain ticking and just this awkward thing. So I saw that he was over there when I got into the gym. I saw that he was sitting over there, and he's always over there. That's nothing new. He usually is over there in the mornings working out, and then he trains people. I don't venture straight over to that area, but I purposely did things differently this morning because I wanted to, again, avoid awkwardness with these girls now, because I made the video and I knew it was, whenever things get awkward with somebody, it creates a tick and it creates an awkward environment, not just for myself, but for them as well. You know, because they're all hearing these videos. I know they're hearing me talk about them, right? So even if it is gang stalking activity, which I strongly suspect, these girls are still coming, and I don't want this awkward environment for myself or even them. So I was just like, let me just try to use the Smith right now, you know, so that I can avoid having to use that at the time when I usually use it and they coming over and working out, you know, in the area by me. So I went over there, even despite seeing him and knowing he's the tick of the month, I still went over there to use the Smith machine. He was doing his thing over there like he usually does. And so he's walking around doing his thing and I'm working out. And as he's walking over, you know, he's walking over to use another machine, another set of new faces that I'm seeing in the gym. Now, I'm not meaning to mention them, but one of the guys was even wearing gang stalking colors last time, and he keeps pinching his nose very obviously. I don't know if it's like he almost wants me to have a response. I'm purposely not acknowledging it. Now I am in this video. But I just want to tell you what really created the tick bad with the Italian guy. because I was actually controlling it. Miraculously, when I got over there and I saw him, the tick wasn't happening too bad. But then when he started walking over to use one of the machines closer to the Smith machine, excuse me, those two guys, two new faces that I'm seeing in the gym now, and they look young too, again, people that look like they're in their early 20s, they walk over and they start to, in the mornings, typically when I'm on the other side, they're over there. Now I'm over here by the Smith machine. I'm noticing they're by the Smith machine. So they definitely seem like gang stalkers. But again, I'm not sure. I even saw one again, them, like I said, wearing the gang stalking colors and consistently pinching his nose. It seemed like trying to get a reaction and I just wasn't giving it, But anyways, they're now over there in the morning by me, by the Smith machine. So I'm like, wait a minute. Usually I'm over there in the morning and they're over there since I've been seeing them these last 2 days. Now I'm over here, they're over here. But I was like, I'm not going to have a reaction to this. Again, not sure 100%, even though this is likely what's going on. Not sure if they're gang stalkers. So I'm like, I'm not going to keep having these reactions. I already made that last video. Let me just stay over here and work out. If they're over here working out with me, oh well. But as he's walking over, the Italian guy, to use one of the other machines, the guy that was wearing the gang stalking colors, one of the new faces, he looks up at him and he looks down and looks at me and then he pinches his nose. It's like this kind of teasing thing because they know this tick is happening with the Italian guy. So it started, his name started ticking in my head and I had to really push it out. I had to really push the thing out, right? So anyways, he's doing his thing. He was working out initially and not making the noises. He wasn't. He was just quietly working out with his earphones in. So the two guys that I suspect are gang stalkers, they start to do Bulgarian split squats right in front of the mirror where I'm trying to squat. And they know that I talked to, everybody knows, right? At this point, I'm using that stimuli. Everybody knows. I talked about in my video the fact that it seems like this new thing where they're purposely working out in front of the mirror when I'm using it and trying to do the Smith machine, kind of like it's this it seems like spiteful thing to push the false narrative about the mirror thing. And not just that either. I think just to be spiteful in general because they don't like me and they know that I use the mirror to squat. Now, mind you, I'm a long femur squatter. So if you look up long femur squatters, you'll see that one of the main issues with us is that naturally, because of our build, the way that we're structured, we tend to lean more forward when we're squatting. And so we're susceptible to poor form when squatting. So we have to really be careful about that and pay attention and cognizant when we're doing the squats. I've really perfected squatting at this point to the point where I'm doing it really well, but I still like to see myself to make sure I'm not bending forward too much because I actually was having knee pains when I first started working out in the gym because of that. Leaning forward too much and causing knee flexion, too much knee flexion and pain. And so that's why I like to see myself. And so when they block me, I can do the squat and I feel myself doing it, but it feels awkward and I feel like I don't know if I'm doing it properly, at this point. And so that's really what it is. But anyway, so they come now and they're right in front of me doing Bulgarians. Never seen them doing this before. They're doing Bulgarians in front of me while I'm using the Smith machine. So I'm like, you know what, this seems like gang stalking, but I'm not going to give it a reaction. I keep doing this and making these videos and reacting. It's stupid. I said, I'm hearing the Smith. I know how to squat. I can do this. I don't have to see myself. I would like to, especially when the weight gets heavier. I really would like to see myself because with the heavier weight, I really need to make sure I'm not leaning too forward and hurting my knees and my femur and stuff. Look, the thing wants to take my head now. What the heck? Anyway, so instead of making a big deal about it and getting annoyed with them, I was more so just watching them because they're right in front of me doing whatever they were doing. This is more pleasant than having somebody bend over in my face, though. I can take this type of gang stalking a little bit more, even though it was irritating too. So I'm looking at the guy and it seems like the one that be pinching his nose was trying to train the other one, right? And he seems like a novice trainer. Not to say like he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not trying to come for him. But he does seem like a novice, like maybe somebody that just started training. And so it does kind of reflect in the way he's training the guy. And I'm not just saying that to buck back because he was pinching his nose. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But they both look young, first of all. So kudos to them for even coming to the gym and working out, whether it's gang stalking or not. But it did seem to me like, novice type of thing. That's the energy I was getting. Like, you just getting into this thing and maybe you're somebody that works out because he does look fit. His arms look fit and stuff. Like, maybe you're somebody that works out and now you're trying to be like an inspiration to someone else. And so you're trying to help them out. That's what the energy I'm getting from him. So he's helping the dude do the Bulgarian and he's trying to show him the correct form and you need to move forward a little bit more as you're doing it. But then I noticed the guy that was actually doing the Bulgarian that was getting trained, the way he was doing it was like he was putting his leg up. If you look up the workout, the Bulgarian split squat workout, you look at the fact that you put your back leg up, one of them, and then the front leg, you're supposed to squat down and use that leg to push your body back up. And that's the workout. That push up from the floor with your leg, it's what's working the muscle out. So I noticed that the guy, they're getting enraged because I'm saying what I'm saying. I don't understand why. What am I saying that's wrong? What's wrong with what I'm saying? I don't understand. I don't want them to pull the current again, y'all. Let me hurry up and finish this video. I did want to talk about this though, because this is what led to the Italian guy starting the noises. So maybe what I said was rude and I didn't realize it. I wasn't trying to be rude. I was genuinely trying to help. I think this is what the problem is. I think it's miscommunication. I think I'd be doing things that's offensive to people and I don't think it's offensive. So anyways, so I'm noticing the guy is like, he's getting down in the Bulgarian split squat, and when he's getting up, he's using both of his hands to press on his leg to get back up. And it's like taken away from the workout. At this point, you're just wasting time and getting sweaty. I'm like, you're supposed to use that leg to get up and not use your hands, or the tension isn't on the muscle. And so I just absent-mindedly, I know they can hear my thoughts. And I'm like, well, I'm staring at them anyways. After a while of doing a few squats, I said, let me just wait till they move. So I was just standing there watching them. And so, I thought the thought, I know they could hear my thoughts. I said, he's not supposed to do that. I said, he's not getting any tension on the muscle. I didn't say it in an offensive way or a rude way. I just said he's not getting any tension on the muscle when he's using his hand to get back, his hands to push himself back up. He needs to remove his hands and use his leg to push himself back up off the floor, and that's the workout. That's how you get tension on a muscle. I thought that in my head. Really, his hand should be holding a weight. His hand should be holding some sort of barbell or something. But because he's just trying to learn the form, I understand why there was no weight being utilized. But now his hands are just there and he didn't know what to do with them. So the guy could have gave him like a 5-pound weight or something very light to hold on to, just so he could have something to do with his hands, so he's not awkwardly there with his hands not knowing what to do with it. Or he could have held his hands together and performed the workout, rather than putting his hand on his leg and using it to push himself up and then taking away from the workout. So I didn't have any ill intent when I thought what I thought. I'm like, well, they're in my way anyways, I might as well just think and help them, because I could see that he was using his hand to push himself back up and not truly getting the workout. So I just thought that in my head. I just thought what I thought in my head, nothing offensive. And so it's like the Italian guy forgot that he's not supposed to be hearing my thoughts, because then he stood up and he looked at what was going on. I saw him get up when I thought the thought, and he looked at what was going on, and then he laid back down and continued to do his workouts, and he started going, ugh, doing the noise thing. But it wasn't as malicious as that time when I initially started seeing him in the morning, where he seemed pissed off when he was doing it. He didn't seem pissed off this time, but he did start doing the noises. After that, he started to make the noises. And so I was reactionary to it, stupid. I was just seeing what likely was gang stalking activity taking place in front of me, and I tried to help rather than be reactionary. But I'm sensitized to the Italian guy. I'm already, feeling like on eggshells with the whole thing, and humiliated that his name is taken in my head. And so when he starts making the noises, I was an asshole to him. Like he actually moved over on a machine right next to me. He had already started setting it up before he started making the noises. So he was already planning to come on that machine next, after doing whatever he was doing over there with the dumbbells. But I noticed him doing it over there first, where he was at with the dumbbells, because I didn't have my music turned up to the max this morning. And usually I do, but this morning I didn't. So I could actually hear him. I could hear him slightly, but I could hear he was making the noises. So I was like, wait a minute, is he doing the noises because I thought that thought about the guy and the Bulgarians? I was just trying to help, is what I was thinking. But I was just like, I didn't think it was offensive. So then he got on the machine right next to me, and there was a lot of weight on the machine. So it was a strain, but he's a big, strong guy, man. Like, he doesn't make noises. Like, he wasn't making noises before. He literally started after I thought that thought. He starts doing the workout next to me. He's making the noises. So I got angry and I had a reaction, and I was an asshole to him. And I thought I said, oh, great. Now we're starting with the gorilla sounds. That's what I thought in my head. I said, oh, great. We're starting with the gorilla sounds is what I thought. And I just finished my squats. I got through my squats really quickly. And then I put the barbell down on the safety bars. This is what I've been doing. I told you guys since last time, to build up the strength in my legs. I've been purposely putting it at the low level of the safety bars and putting as much weight as my body can take on the barbell and trying to push it up off the barbell just to strengthen my legs from that level, that low level, so that I can eventually squat the 270 ass to grass, which I did last time. I did do it, and it was really a strain. Like I told y'all instantly, if y'all watched the last video, they started using the shadow networking software to tease me about it. Anyway, so I started that tactic last time where for 2 of my squats, rather than actually squatting the heavy weight, I'll purposely put the barbell on the low level of the safety bars and I'll put all the heavy weight on and I go underneath and I try to push it up from the floor. So I was telling y'all last time when I did it, I was able to push up 180 pounds off of the barbell. I couldn't go heavier. I remember trying to do the 230 in hopes of eventually getting to 270. I don't know what I was thinking. It wasn't until I actually tried it that I realized how hard it was. So I tried to push up. This was last time, not even today. I'm not even talking about what happened today. Last time I tried to push up the 200. Excuse me. I tried to push up the, after I did the 180 successfully last time in the gym, I tried to push up 230 because I can squat 230 ass to grass. So I'm like, I should be able to push this up easy. So I hopped from 180 to 230 and I could not get that shit to budge. I couldn't get it to budge. So today I already had in my mind, even before he was doing what he's doing, this is just something new I'm adding to my routine, that I'm going to do a couple of push-ups from the barbell, from the safety bar. I'm going to do the same thing. Like for a couple of reps, instead of squatting, I'm going to put the barbell on the safety bars and load up as heavy as I can. Look at the tick happening. And try to push the barbell up from the safety bars. So I did that today. I did the 180 and I was able to do it. And then no, that's not what happened. I didn't do the 180. I already knew that I could do the 180. So immediately when I put the barbell on the safety bars, I immediately went up to 200 pounds because I'm like, that's just 20 pounds. I should be able to do it. But the 180 was already a strain for me. And similar to what happened to me with the gym fail months ago when that guy actually saved my life, even though I had only gone up 10 pounds from 200, at the time, 200 was the heaviest that I could squat ass to grass. So those 10 pounds was enough to fold me. And so similar to that, when I tried to go up 20 pounds here on the barbell, so I tried to push up the barbell from the safety bars at low level with 200 pounds rather than 180, I could not get it up. It wouldn't budge. I couldn't get it. And so I remember just, getting really annoyed that I couldn't get it because he was already making the noises and I heard him, and so it was irritating me, but I didn't have a response. And really it's just humiliation because already his name is ticking in my head. And then now he's doing this gang stalking tactic. I'm like, why? I didn't do anything. I felt like I hadn't done anything wrong. I felt like I had given the guy advice. I hadn't said anything mean or disrespectful. So that's what really caused the reaction. I was reactionary towards it. And so when I couldn't get it, like the adrenaline in me and the athlete in me and the competitor in me, I was already mad that I couldn't get the lift that I was trying to do. And then I'm hearing him doing the noises and he wasn't doing it, like I said, as maliciously as he had been doing it that first morning where I could tell he was pissed. Like obviously about whatever was played in my video. This time was more so just in like this jokey, mocking kind of way. But I could still hear him and it was irritating me. And so I said, oh great, are we going to start the gorilla sounds today? That's what I thought in my head. And obviously he heard my thought. So he helped me, to buck back. He helped me take the weight off of the barbell. So that makes me look like more of an asshole and makes me feel like more of an asshole. So, but it was a reaction to him making those noises. And me already being sensitized and just humiliated in general that his name is ticking in my head. So anyway, he pulls the plates off of the thing, right? He helped me and I said, thank you, I continued to try to get it, like pride at that point, because once I realized I couldn't get it after the second, third time, typically I'll stop at that point and say, okay, I'm not ready for this yet. But I kept trying. It was pride at that point. I kept trying and trying. I couldn't get the thing. I even went as far as to take off one of the 10-pound plates and try 190 because, like I said, I can do 180. Couldn't even get the 190. I was so mad. I'm trying. The 190 kind of lifted a little, but I couldn't get it. And so I just did 2 at 180 and I was able to get it. 180 is a strain, but I can do it. I can get it up off the thing from 180. Anyway, so that's what happened, and it just kind of created this awkward thing today in the gym for me. It wasn't too bad though. It really wasn't. Just that moment alone was awkward. And then after the gym, when I left, this is what I really want to talk about in this video, what they did when I left the gym. Oh God, I don't want to though, because I don't want them to take the light. And I just want to finish this video. It's getting really long. But similar to what I was talking about in the earlier clips, where I said earlier, a few months ago when they shut down the public transportation on me, because I was listening to a song and they created a narrative from it and tried to sensitize me to it and push the false narrative about the guy that I talked about with the cyberbullying thing. They did something similar today when I got out the gym. I was sitting there and I was just looking at videos on YouTube and stuff. Sorry, I always get awkward when I talk about this thing. I got so much backlash for this and you don't even understand. So I was sitting there and I was just looking at YouTube videos, just scrolling through my YouTube. This is what I do when I get out the gym sometimes. Instead of listening to music, I'll look at videos. And they always purposely, the people that's controlling the technology, try to send me BS while I'm sitting outside the gym to mess with my mood and to create whatever. So I'm sitting out there and they send me a video about Blair Underwood, and it looked like this big, this headliner, like something huge was happening with him and his marriage. So of course, I'm clicking on, I'm a fan of Blair Underwood, and it's something that if you are a fan, you're going to click on, right? You're going to click on something that looks interesting if it pertains to a celebrity that you're interested in. So they always do that. They always send, I talked about this already, it's like clickbait. They'll send these interesting titles to you, knowing that you're going to click on it, and it's full of sensitization. And I knew it was going to be some BS, but I didn't know what it was going to be. So when I clicked on it, it said Blair Underwood Oh, the supervisor's here. Okay, guys, I'll continue this video in a minute. I'll be back. All right, y'all. So let me finish up. Sorry, the supervisor came to sign me in. So that's what happened. That's what happened there, y'all. Why I had to end the clip. Anyway, let me go ahead and finish up what I was saying, though, y'all. So anyways, so yeah, I clicked on the Blair Underwood video, and immediately they start sensitizing me, talking about the fact that he basically is divorcing his wife now, and he's blatantly deciding to date his best friend that he's been best friends with for years. And so as soon as they said that, they hear the ref campaign in the background with the craziness. As soon as they said that, they started revving up in the road, and then I heard like an ambulance sound. They actually drove a fire emergency vehicle in front of me. Then a police vehicle drove by in the other direction, and the sirens are going off. And so of course I got irritated with that, because it's like they're still pushing that false narrative, but I realized they're doing it on purpose. Similar to how they were pushing the narrative about me being a hoe and all these other false narratives that I know they know aren't true. It's really just this thing about me bearing false witness, and so they're trying to make me feel accused, basically. And because I talked about the thing in the first place, it pissed them off, so now they're purposely doing that. But for me, it's kind of counterproductive, ironically, because it's like you were getting mad at me for saying certain things that you felt would cause friction in his situation, but then you keep constantly pushing this false thing here, which really could create friction because you're pushing a false narrative. I don't know why they would do the thing, though, the sound. They're doing the rooster drone now. But for me, they know why I talked about the things I talked about. I talked about it because, again, I don't know how many times I have to say this, or in how many different ways I have to say it. In the old neighborhood, before we moved to the neighborhood we're in now, actually before I even tried to relocate off island in 2022, before my targeting went viral, there was a lot of noise campaigns happening in that neighborhood. And one of the things they were consistently doing back then too was taking the current off and on. It was happening before I even left island. And there was one night when they did it, it was so humiliating. I had just worked out, went for this big vigorous bike ride in the neighborhood, and I had a turmeric mask on my face, and I was in the shower washing the mask off, and his dad used to be outside the house herding goats. This is what I want you to understand. Like, all these weird things have happened to me that it's like you wouldn't even believe. Like, how did life work out like that? Like, how is it that my parents years later ended up renting a house in the neighborhood where his family lives, and like a hop and a skip away from his dad's house, and my dad ends up befriending his dad in this targeting, and kind of like, it would seem like, ganging up against me is what it felt like. So anyways, they used to do a lot of noise campaigns in that neighborhood before I ever made videos about this man, right? And this was before I ever even left island. So like I said, in the old neighborhood, before I tried to relocate this night, they took the current. And the reason I'm going into this again is because they're doing noise campaign with the rooster drone. When I said cause friction in his situation, the things I said, but understand why I talked about what I talked about. And really what led to me sharing the receipt video was because they tried to insinuate that I was a liar. And so that was what really pissed me off, and what led to me being like, okay, I need to provide receipts and this and that, because I was dealing with an element of gaslighting for years as it pertained to that situation. Before I ever made videos and told anybody about what was going on, my family knew. I was telling them about the fact that I was kind of being cyberbullied due to the situation. And it almost felt like an element of gaslighting even then. Even when I was showing them stuff that was obvious, I kind of realized now. I didn't put two and two together what was going on. Similar to now with the targeting, they felt like I was a bitch and I deserved it, pretty much. Anyway, so, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. So that's why I shared it. It wasn't to cause friction in his situation. And really what led to the extra stuff that I didn't need to share was because they kept pushing stuff at me about me not telling the truth. And so, of course, I then felt like, okay, let me get the evidence to show you. It just made things way worse for me. Anyway, so that was why I shared the stuff, though. In the old neighborhood, there was a lot of gang stalking before I ever even left Island, much less come back and make videos. That one night in particular stands out to me. I was washing turmeric mask off my face. They see me doing this. They're watching me, surveilling me with these drones. They know I'm in the process of washing the turmeric mask off my face. They're going to take the current. So I'm standing there, butt naked with this turmeric mask dripping off my face. And I'm hearing a bunch of goats outside. The goats are going, you're making a bunch of noise outside. Sorry. They started, the AC thing started going off. The goats started going crazy outside the window. So I had to feel my way around like a blind lady around the house looking for water, a bottle of water to wash the mask off my face. And then I get outside to sit on the porch because the house is in darkness. I'm seething at this point, humiliated. And I'm hearing in the bush my dad talking to somebody in the bush and laughing and what sounded like directed convo. Like, man, they took the current. Oh, man. When they're both laughing up and whatever, making a joke about it like it's, directed convo because they knew I was on the porch, and they know I could hear them. So I look over the balcony, I see my dad in the bush with his dad laughing about the fact that they took the current. They weren't being malicious about it. It's not like it was like, ha, ha, ha. But it was like directed convo. Like they're laughing up about the current being taken and they know what just happened. And so these are the things that was taking place in the old neighborhood that led to when I did come back on Island and decide to tell my story, me mentioning that as well as other things when I told my story. It wasn't because I had this long-standing relationship with the man and, all of a sudden now that I'm targeted and my life is topsy-turvy, I decided I'm going to profess my love for him. Is that what they're thinking? Like, I don't understand it. It's not even making sense, the narrative. So anyways, that's what led to me ever even talking about the thing. But I got so much backlash and, at the end of the day, again, the man is married and, or I don't know if he is or not, to be honest with you. I know he was in a relationship for a long time, but I'm sure at this point he's married. With the stuff they're sending me, the sensitization, I'm sure it's like at this point now marriage. But he has a child or children. I don't know at this point, whatever. For sure I know he has a son. And so for me to be sharing some of that stuff, it was kind of selfish because even if it feels unfair what happened to me, there are innocent children involved and that's really the end of it, really, with that. And so I took the stuff down. I took it down and I apologized and they still just antagonizing me about the thing and antagonizing me and pushing the false narrative to be spiteful. So that's what they did outside the gym. And, I was already in a kind of a pissy mood because of what had happened in the gym. It wasn't too bad, but it was still kind of like just this kind of thing. And then now this, it just was like, I just wanted to mention it, just show you how they push these false narratives and want to talk about it and how they're recently, in particular these last 2 weeks, that would be one of the things I considered as an amp up in the gang stalking because they started trying to hardcore push that narrative again, in addition to some of the other things I talked about in the last video. But anyway, the current's back, y'all, so I'm in a good mood. I don't want to do anything to make them take it again, so that's it, y'all. I just wanted to document, though, this race thing because, I was supposed to show you the video. Because they sent me, like I said earlier, this horrible video from the show Blackish, right? With Tracy Ellis Morgan, I think is her name. Tracy Ellis Ross, Diana Ross's daughter. And in the scene, her husband's wearing plaid. Her son is wearing army fatigue. And apparently he brought home like this white girl that he met and he's dating. And so the mom saw the white girl and immediately like her eyes got like this sinister look, as the girl walks in and she's like freaking mean mugging the girl and just, being really nasty to her. And then she literally said in her head, you could hear her thoughts, it's because she's white, like, I'm like, what the fuck? And it's just terrible, man. And that's what led to me making the video because they're like literally running with this false narrative and trying to paint it like I hate, I don't want to say it. Just horrible stuff. My grandma was white, so no. And my ex-boyfriend was before I came down here. Anyway, so let me show y'all that video. I'm going to turn it down because I don't want to get a copyright strike. And I'm going to end it there. I'm going to take off the video. I just want you to see what led to me making this in the first place. This is part 2. And I realized that I never went back to the race thing and expounded on it like I said I would. So let me just play that video for you real quick, what they sent. You're not going to hear the volume. Like I said, I already explained to y'all what the commentary was. But I just want you to see the shadow networking and the sensitization with the plaid and the army fatigue and how they can push these false narratives with the technology. Oh, I have to turn the volume down, y'all. First of all, that wasn't the clip. I clicked on that by accident, but let me turn the volume down.
Mom? Dad? I'd like you to meet Megan, my girlfriend.
Megan!
I mean at all.
Megan.
Megan!
How'd you two meet? I was actually coming down the hall when I noticed him. A couple of freshmen were trying to take his backpack.
You should have seen Megan confront those girls. She was amazing. Well, I mean, Megan's amazing at everything, so... Oh, tell them about Brown.
Well, I actually got early acceptance to go to Brown. Just like you, Mrs. Johnson.
Well, not just like me. I was waitlisted. So.
Isn't she great? Nazi Girio me.
It's because she's white.
Y'all saw, right? I'm so glad. Oh, y'all saw, right? I'm so glad that there was subtitles there. Thank goodness there was subtitles there. Anyway, so you see how they're making her face look and how nasty she's acting. Like, I don't act like that. Even now with the awkwardness, like, I get the stupid look on my face. I look awkward whenever white people come on the screen, or girls, really, children. Sensitization. I get this awkward, stupid look on my face because I know they're staring at me and I don't know what to do with my face. This is partially why I wear the big black shades at work at night when I'm watching my shows, because I feel so uncomfortable. But during the daytime, I'm not going to be home wearing the big black shades. Like, I'm just not doing that. But it's not ever a look like what she has. That's even when I was in my car in Florida sharing the tyrannical, crazy shit out of anger, I didn't have that look. Like, she looked freaking like, whoa. You know, and just the stuff she's saying and stuff. And then y'all saw the plaid and the army fatigue. This is what they do with the technology. And so that was what led to me making this part 2 video. It's a mess, man. Then they sent me, like I told y'all, the video about me wanting to be a white woman. I didn't mind that one as much. I don't mind if they run with that narrative. That's fine. That's not a big deal if you feel that way. This is something different here. Anyway, so that's it, y'all. I'll talk to y'all on the next one. Peace out.